How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Hey,
Hey, good.
What's
Doing okay for now.
I'm a little frustrated. You know, last second cancellations are always frustrating. We had 2 last second cancellations for those in chat. Actual Jake and Denims, neither of them will be appearing on today's show. Actual Jake canceled about 3 hours ago. Denims 5 minutes ago. So we're gonna go into the show without either of them today. So anybody who was here from their communities, I'm very sorry that they canceled last second. So we're gonna go into the show though. We're gonna keep on treading without them. Slightly frustrated, but still living. So we're gonna go on. So, welcome to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. I'm very happy to have you all here to discuss the issues today for this week. As always, I'm going to go through the rules. The first rule, of course, is to not break any terms of service for Twitch. If you do, you will be immediately booted from the panel. I would like to keep my channel. I would like to not be homeless. And you know, the eviction moratorium is about to end. So now more than ever, I need a job. So please do not get rid of, break any terms of service. I would really like to keep my job. Secondly, we will not be attacking people's central identity on this panel. What does that mean? You will not be going after people's race, sexual orientation, gender identity, or anything of that sort. I will make the determination if you're doing so. This also includes religion. So let's say that Agent 10 turned over to CounterPoints, was like, "You are Christian, you fool. You believe in the Jesus? That's terrible." I'd be like, "Hey, we need to stop that." Unless specifically it was a religious debate, I would like to see nothing of that sort, unless the person themselves was like brought up their own religion. Does everybody understand that idea? Like, okay, wonderful. No slurs. Just don't use them. Hopefully you guys can be a little bit smarter than I, hypocrite, and not use slurs today. Okay. When I am speaking, no one else is speaking. I am just speaking to moderate, no other purpose. So I'm not doing it to give anybody a certain advantage over others. I'm just doing it so we can have some law and order, which this panel needs. The panel C needs more law and order. Amen, ye. Other than that, I think that's basically all the rules. You will all have a 1-minute intro and 1-minute outro segment for each topic. Is there any confusion about the rules? Anything that people would like to clarify? Nope. Wonderful. So we're going to go around the room and everybody's going to introduce themselves. We're going to, as always, start in the top left-hand corner with Agent 10.
Hello, everyone. I'm Agent. Political beliefs. I would say I'm myself a moderate righty. I'm 20 years old, college student, BFA, line design dude. I do a bunch of stuff on Twitch, gaming, some politics, some media stuff, breaking down movies, TV shows, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you here. We're now going to throw it over to Aircraft Sparky.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aircraft Sparky. I am a nationalist conservative who firmly believes that we need to be focused more on not just America first, but America only until we actually fix the problems here in America. I'm a Jew with Jesus, if you will, a Messianic Jew. I do follow religion. I'm not religious. I'm disciplined. It's a little bit of a different idea, but if we ever talk religion, you'll get my little breakdowns on that. But yeah, let's have fun tonight.
I'm sure we'll get into the depths of the Abrahamic faith during our gaming conversation. We're going to go over to CounterPoints.
My name is Excuse me. My name is Connor. I run a YouTube. I am center right. I am a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd. So I break down popular media along those lines, doing Full Metal Jacket, End of Watch, Warhammer 40,000, and Halo now. Getting ready for Halo Infinite. Pretty excited about that. So if any of those subjects interest you, I also do panel shows and rants into the void about politics. So come on over, type in CounterPoints comment spelling into YouTube, and you'll find me.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it to the last-minute replacement that I deeply appreciate, Demon Mama. And of course, the topic of a very controversial decision as of recent with the Hippy Dippy championship. Disputed, but we all know at home the truth of the situation. We're throwing it over to Demon Mama.
Thank you very much. My name is Demon Mama. I'm a political edutainer on YouTube and Twitch. You can follow me pretty easily by going to my website, demonmama.com. It's right on the screen. All my links are there. Really looking forward to hanging out with y'all and talking about the topics. It looks like we got some pretty interesting topics coming up. So thanks for having me on. I know it was a last-minute thing, and I apologize if I'm a little underprepared. I didn't know I was going to be on until just about 5 minutes ago. Good to see you all here.
Again, I really appreciate the last second help. And if anybody wants to go over to her channel and sub and support her, I appreciate that. Now I'm going to throw it over to Hunter Avalone.
Thank you, Dylan, for having me on. My name is Hunter Avalone. I am a former conservative turned social democrat. I do streaming on Twitch and YouTube, so you can check out my YouTube channel or my Twitch. Thanks again, Dylan, for having me on, and I'm looking forward to talking about our subjects. I'm also very excited to talk about porn.
Wonderful. We're going to throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. My Twitter and Twitch are the same, which is twitch.tv or twitter.com/Joe Lewis with the O being a 0. And yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very happy to have you. Now we're going to throw it over to Maddie, another last-second replacement. I deeply appreciate it.
No problem. Hi, I'm Maddie Cakes. I am personally a leftist social democrat, but I like to think of myself more as a pragmatic socialist. And I religiously, I was raised Catholic. I'm no longer religious, but I see value in churches or religious gatherings as like a communal space. So I do see value in it. So I don't have any strong opinions there. But I'm really happy to be here. And I'm usually on panel nights, but yesterday I did tarot readings, including one for CTV that was fantastic. So who knows? Maybe I'm a witch. We'll see.
Was the championship in his future?
Oh, that part said ask again later.
Makes
So
sense.
we'll see.
We'll throw
Wait,
over
were we
to
supposed to list our religious?
no,
affiliation?
people
Well, you
they've
could.
gotten into the trend of doing it. I don't know why.
I hopped on the bandwagon.
About to have
Yeah,
a
I am the
sectarian
queen of hell.
conflict.
Yeah, I'm the queen of hell. My imps worship me, and so should you. I am the god of all of the hells, and I apologize for any hellish creatures that escape. Thank you.
Wonderful. Keep your Bibles close. Throwing it over to Kevin Gasly.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Dylan. It's great to be back here. I got to say, I think the Hippy Dippy Roundtable is one of the best things on Twitch. So if you guys aren't subscribed, be sure to subscribe to Dylan Burns. And also, while you're at it, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I do daily content. I do daily premieres to YouTube. I do daily live streams as well to Periscope, Twitch, and YouTube at Superpower Broadcasting. I'm a feminist. I'm an anti-theist. I'm a liberal hawk and a liberal unilateralist. I believe that basically in moral universalism that the West is the best and that everybody in the world should have the same freedom and opportunities to not have to deal and live in fear of terror and gulags and starvation, etc. So in that sense, I'm also a liberal capitalist, and you can check me out over on Superpower Broadcasting. I mostly focus on foreign policy and security analysis and that kind of stuff, but I've been branching out to talk more about social issues lately, and it's great to be on this panel. I'm looking forward to talk porn, games, and I believe we're talking Olympics too. So
The Olympics one was a last-second decision. There was just not a lot of interest generally for the last topic, so we changed it to the topic which is actually the first of the night, which is recently there's been a lot of controversy at the Olympics about protests, and recently about a certain Olympian who is quite awarded pulling out of the Olympics due to mental health reasons. This has generated many responses online, many people saying that this is important for mental health for her to do this, other people saying that it was disrespectful to the United States, which she was representing at the competition. So we're going to go around the room, have people introduce their opinions on the first topic before opening up into a general open format. We're going to start, as always, in the top left-hand corner with Agent 10.
So, I wouldn't say it's disrespectful to America. I would say it's extremely disappointing. She's one of the best, if not the best, gymnastics Olympian ever, given what it is. But I understand that you have to take a step aside sometimes for your mental health. I would say for the most part, though, she definitely choked and let people down, whether it be people on her team who, deserved a gold instead of silver, or like other people in the country who were believing in her to pull the gold home. I just think she choked. I think if you're an Olympian of that level, you should be able to go through with it. It's just a personal thing, but I don't think she was a disgrace to America or anything like that.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Aircraft Sparky.
When it comes to Simone Biles, look, when you look at her performance in the past, this has been one of the largest disappointments, I think, personally, in her career. She's an amazing athlete, but part of competition is the mental aspect. There, for some reason, Ritalin, I guess, is banned in Japan. I've lived there for 3 years. It wasn't illegal when I was there. So I don't know where that rule came from. But with her quitting, well, she stepped aside because she claimed she had mental reasons. Look, okay, that's part of competition. That automatically should take her out of the position of the greatest of all times or the GOAT, because part of competition is actually being able to stay within the fight. There's a huge mental game when it comes to sports. And but that still doesn't take away from the amazing things she has done. And she was actually mistreated by the Olympic Committee when it comes to how she was scored, because they went on a base of equity. She pulled off an amazing move during qualifications, which actually made the judges want to subsequently mark her down on everything she did. So she wasn't even being judged on an equal playing field. So I understand why she quit, and I think it was somewhat honorable that she stepped aside so the team could do better. She realized that there was a problem, and the team would suffer because of that. So it's mixed feelings on that.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to CounterPoints.
Yeah, so it's funny to me that modern Republicans are taking an opportunity to take a shit on one of the best athletes who ever lived. I think that if you watch Simone Biles and her performance, I think there's even a documentary called Simone versus Herself. Basically, she's top tier in the world. So I want to quote one of the most base Republicans ever, Teddy Roosevelt. "It is not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong person stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short and again because there's no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends themselves in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if they fail, at least fails while daring greatly. So that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never knew victory or defeat." And even with Simone Biles withdrawing, I would put her in that category. Absolutely. She basically does things that make my decrepit old ass embarrassed that Charlie Kirk even dared to be like, "Oh, Simone Biles is a coward and a wussy," and like that's obnoxious for somebody who probably couldn't do a single pull up. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
You just quoted one of my favorite historical quotes, period. I really appreciate you quoting that quote because I forgot it. Could you DM that to me? And next, I'm going to throw it over to Demon Mama.
Yeah, I've been very, this is a story I've followed sort of loosely, but I've been very surprised with the reaction of a bunch of people who tend to advocate against this idea of collectivism, but then the moment that they feel like they can say, "Oh, you've embarrassed our nation on the stage, blah, blah, blah," then they can, they'll just dig in on this. Listen, when you're talking about performance of sports at an incredibly high level, it is literally a matter of life and death. If you step up there and you say, "There's no way I can do this," that's called knowing your limits. We encourage that because the worst thing you could imagine is somebody pushing past a limit that they knew they had a limit, that they knew, "I can't do this right now." And then they go through and break their back on the world stage. And then they never perform again. That is, it is absurd that anybody has any problems with this whatsoever. I can understand teammates or perhaps people directly involved being somewhat frustrated, but that needs to be tempered with the very truth that we are dealing with humans here. We are dealing with humans who are performing at a high level. And if you have had something that changes the sort of stasis that you're in, that you perform in at your best, that can seriously mess with your ability to safely perform what you're trying to do. I don't understand how this is an issue at all. This seems like something that's very invented and is I don't even know what would justify someone coming to the position of saying that there's something wrong with this. An athlete knowing their limits and saying, "I can't push through this particular limit," should be encouraged, in my opinion.
Okay. Next, we're going to throw it over to Hunter Avalone.
Yeah, obviously, you have to prioritize your mental health. It's true that being in a sport in general takes a lot of like mental energy as well. And then when you factor that in with being known as one of the greatest athletes of all times, and then you have this immense amount of pressure on you, I think that it makes sense that she may have really felt pressure and felt that it was necessary to take a step back. Overall, I generally see this as kind of a non-issue. I see it as an Olympic athlete needed to take a day off. Who really cares? I'm mainly just having fun laughing at the conservatives who, for the longest time, cried their little eyes out about women's sports. And now all of a sudden, because a woman does something different that they don't like in the sport, suddenly they don't really care about women's sports. It's also really funny seeing conservatives, someone mentioned it early, they're being very collectivist about this. Conservatives will very often say she should have put her own individual needs aside, her own individual desires should have been put aside. Instead, she should have stuck up for the team. She should have stuck with the team. Well, these people are very often anti-vax. So what does that tell you? It tells you that it's ideologically driven, and that's really all this is. It's convenient for these slobs like Charlie Kirk to sit around and stuff his face with Dunkin' Donuts and cry about an athlete, but that's all it is. It's ideologically driven. So no, at the end of the day, I don't think it matters that she took a day off.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, I guess generally speaking, right? Like setting professional boundaries can be challenging in the face of pressure. I don't think anybody is going to deny that, right? And there's potential like discrimination, there's potential like adverse emotional impacts, all that kind of comes into play. And there's something powerful in saying no and choosing not to do something. Something that concerns me is there different difficulties when racially minoritized groups say no, right? So we have to consider, right, that saying no does not always work in our best interest economically and socially, and that can lead to like institutional or social repercussions that can definitely impact careers. And I think that in the macro, we should praise Simone Biles for her ability to say no in the face of this institutional and structural pressure and social pressure. But I think we also have to recognize that the privilege that she used doesn't exist for all athletes. And if we make it a bit more like direct on the lens, doesn't exist for all Black women. And maybe we can get to that today.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to Maddie Cakes.
I echo a lot of what I've heard from the other panelists. And I want to bring up another point that I think is important about why she decided to sit out for the Olympics. She experienced what's more colloquially referred to as the twisties. And that's very similar to what they're called the yips for baseball players. And it's a sudden and unexpected loss of skills in experienced athletes. So with a baseball player, that could mean like throwing bad pitches or missing catches that you otherwise should have had. But for a gymnast, it could mean sustaining a serious injury. It means that while midair, they literally can't tell up from down. And when you think about just how many times Simone flips and finds herself upside down during her routines, this would pose a very significant and serious problem. So I think it's good that she's setting these boundaries. She's recognizing that it's not only her mental health that's at stake here, there could be physical fallout if she were to just push herself forward. And I like that Joe Lewis brought up the privilege element of this, because this isn't something that most women, especially Black women, are able to do. This is not a privilege afforded to them. So while I think it's wonderful that it seems like we all are commending Simone Biles on having the courage to say no and to take a step back and set boundaries, maybe it'd be worth examining why we don't extend that same feeling and suspension of doubt for other women who do the same thing.
Wonderful, and we're gonna wrap up the intros with Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So my general view on this is that essentially it is kind of a manufactured outrage, as was brought up by a couple of the guests here, that there is this basically this almost duplicitous outrage over, well, you know, is this shame? Is this cowardice? This sort of thing. It is interesting to me, and I want to point out just for the record here that a lot of these critics that are now lambasting her over her decision here are the same people who just weeks ago were defending coward Crowder, Stephen Crowder's cowardice in his refusal to debate Sam Cedar, and yet now they're here basically calling Simone Biles a coward because she didn't feel necessarily that she was in the mental state to do her job properly here and give it her all. And of course, the downside in attempting that would be possible serious life-threatening injury or worse. As far as it goes in terms of the team, you have to consider people are saying, well, this is bad for the team. But going in, knowing that you're not at your all, knowing that you may seriously have, you know, an injury occur or something. And if that happens, if you're going out there when you know you're not ready for it, just for the glory or whatever, that's going to sacrifice the morale and the standing of your national team that happens to be there. And yeah, I mean, the degree of injuries that we could talk about are pretty severe. She's somebody who for years has been on Ritalin, and now she doesn't have access to that. So that's not really something that you can necessarily train for. She required that to basically, provide relief from her ADHD, to my understanding. And so that's really the criticism here should be levied on Japan for making it basically illegal to have that if you're participating in the Olympics, not so much on her, because at Rio, where she was able to use it, she did, you know, she was the GOAT basically. So there you go. So thanks.
Wonderful. There doesn't seem to be much disagreement. I'll allow the conversation to go for a little bit, but if everybody's basically, you know, agreeing that we have the consensus, then I'll just move on to the next topic. So I'll allow open debate for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, never change, man. Never
Okay,
change.
well, no, I think I think I can bring up the contention that we might actually be able to fight over a little bit, because I think Aircraft Sparky brought it up, and I think while I did my quote, I still agree with this. Part of performing at the highest level possible is handling the psychological pressure. Now, I'm not going to pretend for a fucking second that anybody can probably hand a candle to Simone Biles at her peak. I'm not. But I am saying that, like, AAA status, multimillionaire, you're on the fucking Wheaties box and all that kind of shit. It's not just that you have physical talent. It's also that you have, like, the mentality and psychology to be in the limelight. And you also have the mentality to know that people are counting on you. So while I think that, like, in this individual circumstance, we can recognize that she's probably one of the greatest of all time, and this is a temporary slip, the reason why I did my quote at all is because I view this as a temporary fall, a temporary setback. I expect Simone Biles to say, like, hey, listen, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. I want to be an example to everybody else. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to kick ass twice as hard. So that's kind of where I'm giving I don't want to say a pass because she doesn't owe me shit. But that's where the thing that I'm trying to emphasize here is, like, the heroic struggle to high ideals and high achievement. Part of that is dealing with the pressures. And I think that was well said by Aircraft Sparky.
But at the same time, we can recognize.
I found the contention. You're welcome.
It's I wouldn't say it's contention. We also got to recognize that this is her last chance at competition, right? She's 24 years old, so she's gonna age out. Now, if she comes back at 26, that'd be incredible. 28, even more phenomenal. But for a gymnast, she's incredibly old. And again, it's weird to say that to call a 24-year-old old, but in regards to the sport, she's definitely going to age out soon. So that's another thing to consider as well.
Well, and I'm going to clear up. Everyone kept saying that Ritalin was banned in Tokyo, which it is, but there was an exemption allowed for her by the committee of 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Put that in the chat, but there is an exception.
Yeah, look, it's like this. Jordan didn't get the yips. That's why he's the GOAT. When the pressure came on, he performed. Look,
he retired early and came back because of money.
He did perform.
He's still the GOAT.
He performed. To be the greatest of all times, you have to take every bit of adversity, not just the physical, but also the mental. There's a huge part of mental in the game. Simone Biles, if she is off her ADHD medication, if she is off Ritalin,
No.
It is what it is. I guess Ritalin, I guess we could call a PED maybe if she couldn't actually perform without it.
Oh
But
God,
when it
what
comes
is this
down to it,
take?
I don't think it is.
I'm good.
You
with it.
really think
Wait.
LeBron wasn't like you? Like, hold on.
I don't think
This is
LeBron.
funny to
first
me.
of all,
This is
wait,
funny
wait,
to me.
The only thing he's king
wait.
of is applause.
Wait,
This is-
one at a time. We're gonna go with Joe Lewis because he was the first to grab it.
Yeah, this is funny to me considering that we know athletes in the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, even the WNBA use performance enhancers and different types of workarounds in the system to make sure they test positive or test or don't even like test anything at all in their system to make sure they can still compete. So I don't know why it's a weird thing to say. Like, I don't know if you were going on that hill, but it
Where's
felt
the
really
masculine
close.
privilege?
Yeah.
Where's the masculine privilege of the MLB and NBA and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I'm kind of interested about your guys' intersectional arguments because basically, I think these things are things that everybody deals with in corporate
Sure,
culture.
and
They deal with in
I
performance
also think that Olympic athletes probably know better about regulations and certain prohibitive and restrictive drugs than probably the Olympics, and they should have a seat at the table when it comes to regulation around these drugs. And that's even something that Olympic athletes argue that when they're advocating for the things that they should be allowed and not be allowed, they're never at the table. So that's probably something to recognize before we start dying on these weird Ritalin hills, you know?
Well,
I'm going to hit back on the fact
fan,
it's
so.
I
the
also
idea
think
that it's a
that, like,
PED. But like the fact
think
is,
there's
you
a
know,
s-
to be the greatest of all time and to get multiple gold medals, you got to deal with the pressure. And the fact is, she did choke. It's a bit disappointing. I'm not saying she's a coward at all because I think that's stupid.
No,
but
she's not a
in
coward.
fact, she choked.
Find choke
Wait,
here. Like,
Wait,
would you
one
say
second.
like,
Wait,
if
one
someone
second. One
suffers-
second. Wait,
This is so silly.
Demon Mama was trying to talk earlier. Just want to make sure she gets a chance.
The idea that like it's a choke because you're having a severe issue with your medication is ridiculous. If somebody walked out and snapped and their ankle snapped, we wouldn't consider them choking. That's not choking.
Her ankle didn't
like
snap
this-
though. Nothing like that sort.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
that's what I'm
Let her
saying.
finish your point, and
We-
then you can respond.
I know you're very eager to get in here. The point that I'm saying is that we devalue mental health, and if we're talking about somebody who's performed at the top of their game for a very long time. This is somebody who has undoubtedly endured the mental challenges of the sport. This isn't that. You have to know, in fact, it is a required skill to build mental endurance, to know when you're at your limit so that you don't push yourself beyond it and damage yourself in the long run. This is not choking. I think it's very uncharitable to call something like this a choke. If you get out there and you're like, oh my God, I'm having vertigo that's preventing me from being able to perform, and I'm going to step down and take the consequences for that. Sure. I think that's a brave and honest act. I don't know where this idea that this is a choke is coming from. You're disappointed as a spectator because you don't get to eat your fucking popcorn. But this is somebody's life, somebody who's performed incredibly well and who's absolutely proven themselves capable of engaging with the mental challenges of sport, but just had something come up this time. And it sort of speaks to our society's general approach towards mental health. I don't know if you know this, but the brain is an organ. It's in your skull. There are chemicals that are changed inside your brain. There are neural pathways that can get fucked up. And that is just as real, just as material as a broken ankle. And if you don't acknowledge that, you're just denying the existence of the brain, which I think is a very interesting position.
Okay, we're gonna start with Connor. Then we're gonna go to the other people on the list, like Aircraft and Agent.
Yeah, no, I think this is a really interesting take. I'm interested in kind of exploring it because what we're talking about is psychological or mental injury, and I think that I probably was raised with a different mentality. So I understand what you're saying. It's an organ. It's capable of suffering injury. Maybe it's neurochemical, neurological. Maybe it's emotional. Who knows what's going on? That it's interesting that we would consider a psychological injury on par with a physical injury, because I would say that's a relatively new conception, probably in the past decade or so. So
People used to think leeches. Like,
Would
sure,
you say?
sure.
would
Hold
you-
on. Well,
Connor,
go
to
ahead.
clarify, would you say
Mhm.
that it's new or just now we're paying attention to it?
Well, okay, so the kind of injury is not new. The paying attention to it is definitely new. The reason why I bring this up though is because somebody asked me this about like endurance sports, because they were wondering, like, on a marksmanship competition that lasted a week long, how do you determine who is best? when basically everybody is shooting bullseyes the entire time. And what I said is, this is a week-long competition. It's not about accuracy in the individual event. It's about consistency and endurance over a really long period of time. And that's part of the judgmental criteria we bring here. So it's not just, right? And here's the thing, like, I don't think anybody here is doubting whether or not Simone Biles is a talent or the GOAT or anything like that. I don't think anybody's saying anything like that. What I think what's being evaluated is, even if we took the mental criteria as being evaluative and the physical criteria as being evaluative, did she perform to her best in this incident? Because basically, if we look at all other Olympic athletes, that is also the pressure that we're holding them to, not just the physical strain, but also the mental, emotional, and basically political pressure or social pressure from the event.
Yeah.
So,
and if they suffered an injury, or if they had said that there's a pain in my body that is causing me to not be able to perform, I would imagine that we should treat them exactly the same. Go, oh wow, like that really sucks.
Yeah, so,
the idea that, like, yeah, everyone, including everyone recognizes that part of the challenge of the Olympics is there's an endurance aspect, but being unable because of some sort of injury or some major complication to finish out the competition doesn't necessarily preclude you from ever having that skill of endurance, right? Like, this is somebody who's proven that again and again. Like, nobody can perform to their 1000% every single time. And sometimes you just get unlucky. Sometimes something that happens, you can't power through it. And I think that, given that this isn't, like, yes, it's the Olympics, but, like, let's be real here. It's still entertainment. It's still sport. That's it. It's not war. Well, it's not a matter of life or death. You have to put your well-being first. And I would say that an athlete who's 24 years old and has their entire life in front of them probably doesn't want to snap their neck doing the hardest performance of their life while they recognize that they have reached a limit. That's ridiculous.
Well, Demon Mama, my question to you,
Connor, but then we got to go down to other people.
Yeah. My question to you, and I'll yield the floor, is basically, like, is there anything that you've said in the past minute about the variables and factors that also doesn't apply to, like, physical stuff? That would be my question, and I don't need an answer. I just want you to think about it, because I basically think everything that you just said about mental injury would equally apply to physical injury.
Well, of course it would. Of course it does. But you have to realize, if an athlete walks out and they have a sudden shooting pain in their leg, because, I don't know, maybe a blood clot happened and it literally killed the oxygen in their leg, and their leg is not working properly, they're going to sit that out. They're not going to, I mean, they might not. They might choose not to.
All I'm saying is, one of my favorite sports heroes is a guy who played baseball on acid, okay? And he played like 9 straight innings, and I think he pitched a no-hitter.
Okay, we're going to...
He did pitch a no-hitter.
We have to move on. We're going to throw it over to Aircraft. Then after that on the list is Agent and Maddie.
Thank you. Demon Mama, you actually had a good point. The brain is an organ, okay? I fully admit that. And the problem is she didn't sit there and talk about some type of pain. She didn't complain about vertigo. She has lost some of her focus, and that could be part of the ADHD issue that she has. So, look, I actually applaud the fact that she decided to, for her own safety, step aside. But because of that, because it's not a physical injury, because this is something that is perceived, there is nothing physically wrong with her. Her stepping aside actually is a way of her giving up her status as the GOAT. And because part of the requirement, hold on, please. Part of the requirements, in my opinion, is when the going gets tough, you step up to the challenge, and you don't always win, but you at least stay in the fight. Because look, we can talk about some of the greatest athletes of all time actually failing at certain times, and then they have redemption stories, redemption arcs, and they can still be considered the greatest. And look, Simone Biles has that opportunity down the road, no doubt. But this is actually going to be a big asterisk on her record. And look, it just is what it is. Just admit that at this point right now, that's a bad thing. But look, we're not blaming her for quitting. I'm not saying it was a bad thing. She didn't let her team down. I think if she doesn't feel like she could perform at her top performance, her stepping aside to allow the alternate to come in so they could have secured the silver for the team, I think that is better than performing at maybe a 60% or whatever and hindering the team. So it's a mixed bag with me. I'm not downplaying anything she has done. The woman is amazing. She is probably the best gymnast overall with stats. But at this one time, at the top level, she got, as Maddie would say, the yips. But the goats, traditionally, the tougher it gets, the less likely those yips develop. And that's really my entire argument here.
So, do you believe that
True.
Simone is the greatest gymnast of all time?
I think that she has the potential to be one of them. But right now, if she has performance anxieties that actually prevents her from achieving at the top level, and you'll have to watch her for the next couple of years just to see.
She's
I mean, we can't make that-
she's probably going to age out or retire. So let's just like kind of broaden this a bit, right? This is a gymnast with 4 gold medals, over I think 20 world championship medals, and then a couple miscellaneous. I think she has over around 30 gold medals altogether, which to the best of my knowledge is the most by a gymnast. Check me on that just to be sure. It's in the top 3 for sure. So I don't know what else she can do in your eyes to put her as the GOAT. Like
redemption
what
arc.
else?
She has that
A
opportunity.
redemption arc in retirement? What's she gonna do? Fucking go like
She doesn't
dunk
have to
on-
retire. You do realize that there are people in gymnastics
like a
that
narrative.
compete.
This is
up
this is
until
a
they're
don't
28,
die
30.
on this dumb hill. It exposes you don't know shit about gymnastics.
No,
But
I don't know
it's-
a shit ton about gymnastics because
Okay, great.
it's
All
not
right.
it's not my favorite
it's
sport
my
in the world
passion.
to watch.
Gymnastics is my
so
passion.
like
Yeah.
okay, would you
I'm
hold
tumbling
this,
right now.
Would
Okay,
you
both
hold
of
this
us will talk at
same?
once.
Sorry. Would you hold
Let's
this same?
finish with the line of questioning.
Would you hold this same standard to like Barry Sanders,
Or Michael Phelps? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Calvin Johnson,
Yeah.
Sure.
Amari
Yeah.
Amari Stoudemire, Ray
I
Allen,
mean, I see the
Michael,
direction you're
Michael
going. It's
Jordan,
predictable.
Michael
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
So are you saying that Michael Jordan is not the GOAT?
No, I'm saying Jordan is the GOAT. Hands
Why?
down. No
Hold
question
on.
in the NBA.
So wouldn't LeBron be better then? Because he never
because
quit his
LeBron-
entire career, saying that he
LeBron-
lost passion for the game, and he also got multiple rings on multiple teams. It seems like if we're going to be consistent with
Got
your
multiple
logic
rings by
here,
multiple
then Michael Jordan will never be number 1 because he quit in his prime. So if you
Listen,
unless you want to try to die on this hill, it's a stupid hill, but we can fight it.
listen, I think Joe Louis is making like 50 different arguments, but the real argument he wants to make is that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I think
really
it's-
all it boils
it's
down
just
to.
he's
weird
really
to me.
chipping away at it.
It's just weird
By
to
the
me.
criteria that was
It's
set.
just weird to me how you're holding this woman to this ridiculous standard, but
It's
then at
not
the
a
same
ridiculous
but then at the
standard.
same time, like I'm giving you the context as to why she's probably not going to compete again, and despite of that, you still want a redemption arc. It's the weirdest thing.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, well, honestly, I would say she did the right thing. Even though she did choke, by definition, she broke down under psychological pressure, whether that be she didn't take
8
her
mile choke.
Ritalin or, she didn't have a bagel in the morning. Whatever it is, she choked. She's still a GOAT. She's still amazing as an athlete. Probably the best gymnast of all time. Most medals, whatever the hell. She's fantastic. She did the right decision for her health. I just think it's disappointing, and by definition, it's a choke. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think I would have done the same decision. If I was her, I would have sat out, but it is by definition a choke. You cracked.
I-
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
It
basically
happens
with
to
what
multiple
Agent was
athletes.
saying.
Okay.
I
So,
don't think-
so Maddie, Demon, and you were trying to say something, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I largely agree with what Agent's saying because yeah, she's a GOAT, but technically speaking, it is also a choke. So, but I support her to do that, and I think it was the right decision. It's just for the record, it's like let's say you get 99% on like the toughest exam in the world. You technically didn't get 100, but you still got the top mark in the class at the end of the day. So that's it just for the record, it is still technically, and because we need to think of, it goes both ways. If we need to think of mental health as an extension of physical health, that it's not just some imaginary stuff that people but with emotions care about. No, it is a real thing and it has a real effect on your physical capabilities. It's also true that, like, let's say you're one of the greatest athletes in a particular sport, but then you disable yourself in such a way that you can't compete anymore. Other people are going to go on then, even if you're awesome. It is still technically the nature of physical athletics. So that's the issue. But I support her doing what she did. And I think that at the end of the day, her record stands for itself as one of the greatest of all time anyway. So
Okay. Oh, I just want to pause this. I hope Hunter Avalon didn't just choke.
Oh.
Where is he?
Oh man.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, he says his stream crashed, but he's trying to get it back up. Hopefully, he will rejoin, because I would hate to have like 3 people just drop from the show in one show in a matter of like 1 hour. Okay, we're gonna throw it over to Maddie and then Demon Mama.
So I just want to take a quick poll of my panelists. I know we're talking about like professional athletes, but we'll dial it back and say, was anyone like a scholarship athlete in college?
Nope, but did other shit.
Oh, just me. Okay, great. So it's just been fascinating watching people who have never actually had to compete at a high level in sports talk about what constitutes choking and what doesn't and what that actually means. It's just really fun for me to watch.
There's 2 people here who have
Biles-
spent a decade in
wow.
violence. What the fuck?
Wow, sir. Okay.
You can choke in more than sports.
Thank
but,
you.
you know.
Well, maybe you can choke right now while I finish, and then you can stop.
We're going like that. Okay.
So, how about this?
Oh,
so Simone Biles literally has like an actual move named after her because she's the first person who's been able to do it, and no one the fuck else has been able to replicate it. It is called the Simone Biles. I encourage you to Google that right now. So like the fact that we're debating here on this panel with people who I don't even know if they've competed in anything, whether or not they're the GOAT, as if we're the arbiters of who the greatest gymnast of all time is. That's rich. Or just saying that someone's choked. And I know someone mentioned, they said, oh, but it's not like she just got the yips, which is choking. First of all, it's twisties. And second of all, no, it's a legitimate like psychological issue. And it just demonstrates that you don't take mental ailments nearly as seriously as you take physical ailments. And that's more reflective of the ongoing stigma with mental health in the first place. And that's worth talking about right here. Like, you don't take seriously that she literally, when she was in practice, had difficulty telling up from down mid-twist. That's putting her in physical danger. And you're saying, no, but she said, yeah, that's choking. No, that's her looking out for her own well-being. Like, she pushes through plenty, but there's always a limit. And more athletes would be better served if they knew what their limit was. Because a lot of people end up fucking injuring themselves and sometimes like stalling or completely ending their career because they didn't listen to those red flags that came up. So I wish more of it.
Yeah, I think there's another aspect of it, which is that like the 2 people pushing back on this particular topic the most, both were like, well, yeah, I recognize the brain is physical, but it's not really physical. And just immediately contradicted themselves. The reality is, okay, imagine it like this. Imagine if you're about to go up and give a speech, and you go and like you got time before the speech begins, and you go to look at your papers and you can't read. For some reason, you cannot even see the words on the page. You might not know why, but you can't. That's not a choke. That's not you. A choke is when you get anxious in the moment and you make a wrong decision. That's a choke. A choke is when you fuck up in the moment because your head's not in the game. A choke is not when you go up and you go, there's something wrong with my body. There's something wrong with the way that I'm performing. I need to sit this out because if I don't, I could injure myself. And the fact that it's being portrayed as a choke, that it's like, oh yeah, this is just emotions or something. Even though you're not saying that outright, you're just kind of like sneaking it under the rug a little bit. I think that's like, it really takes away from our ability to engage this seriously. The brain is a fucking physical organ. If you have a medication that you take because of a number of reasons, like, I mean, God, Ritalin is a pretty major medication and there's a lot of stuff. If that gets messed up, it can physically fuck with the function of your brain. And that is something we should take seriously. We shouldn't pretend that we don't. Just because you don't necessarily know all the details about it doesn't mean that you can just declare it as like a choke. We know what a choke is. A choke is you go to do something and you make the wrong decision and you fuck it up in the moment because your head isn't in the game or whatever. We're not talking about somebody before they go into the game saying, I can't do this because my body is not doing what it's supposed to do. There is something wrong and I need to get this taken care of before I can finish it. These are completely different circumstances.
Okay.
Can I go, please?
We had 3 people raise their hands. I'm gonna go in the order at which I saw them. We're gonna just go Connor, Agent, then Aircraft.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and push back a little bit. I'm probably going to say it on behalf of Aircraft Sparky here. Just because I didn't participate in collegiate sports doesn't mean that I wasn't involved in stressful things. I think I heard him say that he was a combat veteran earlier. I'm a law enforcement and military veteran. I've gotten I get the fucking shit kicked in for the better part of a fucking decade. I think I know what like pressure is, especially violence when people are fucking dying and shit. So yeah, I think I know a little bit about pressure. So anyways, per Wikipedia, which is the authoritative source on everything, in sports, choking is the failure of a person or persons to act or behave as anticipated or expected. I don't give a fuck. You call it whatever you want. Ultimately, at the end of the day, words are fucking noises that us as hairless fucking monkeys make. And we're trying to make a descriptive fucking claim that Simone Biles, while being incredibly talented, maybe one of the most talented people on the fucking planet, literally has a move named after her or something like that, was going into an event, had a psychological issue, and thought that ultimately was the best decision. You keep repeating things that is not in contest. Whether or not it was the right decision, everybody here agrees. Whether or not it was a risk to herself or her teammates, everybody here agrees. Whether or not she's talented, everybody here agrees. Whether or not she's one of the best of all time, everybody here agrees. So you don't have to caveat all this shit. We can boil it down to whether or not she had a psychological malfunction and whether or not we should care. One of the things that I've heard from everybody here that I think is incredible, or from the lefties or progressives here that I think is really positive, is maybe we should normalize recognizing psychological failure points in yourself before performance. That way you don't hurt yourself or others. And the reason why I would analogize this back to security forces before I yield the floor is basically that when there are military members, infantrymen, law enforcement officers who are having psychological or emotional issues, it can get people hurt and get people killed. And then on top of that, I would say that when you see instances of brutality, that is a form of cops choking. They are having a psychological issue. They are fucking up, and they are having an outburst that is not within the performance of their duties. So I think these things are incredibly analogous. Yield.
Okay.
There's a lot I could say to that, but I just want to say that if we're going by your definition that you cited from Wikipedia, that would also include someone getting hit by a car. Because if the only thing that determines a choke is that is an athlete not performing as expected, well, that's incredibly broad. You get hit by a car, oh, you didn't perform as you were expected. Everybody expected you to do really good, but instead you got hit by a car. So I feel like that's a very broad and useless one. Also, I really don't agree with the idea that like police brutality is representative of a choke. There are situations in which this is recurrent behavior that a person has engaged in on numerous times. And there's also cases of police brutality where it's absolutely measured and not just a momentary break. I'm sure there are examples of police brutality where somebody chokes an otherwise good person who normally performs to their duty. But like the idea that all police brutality can be categorized as that, or that even most of it should be, I think is very disappointing.
Okay. Now we're going to throw it over to Agent, Aircraft, then Kevin.
See, the problem is I'm using choke I'm using it in a very liberal way. Right? I want to remove the negative connotation here. Demon Mama's applying it super hard right now. I don't get it. I'm not saying it's a negative. She did the right thing. It was for her own health. Choking happens more than just sports. She broke under psychological pressure. If your whole sport was jumping over cars and then you got hit by one, well then, yeah, you're fucking choked, okay? Her whole thing as a gymnast was she was supposed to do gymnast stuff. She wasn't able to due to psychological pressures. She choked. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It happens to everyone. It's a human response. But I don't know why we're loading it so negatively.
Just for consistency, would you then also, and I'm fine if this is the conclusion that you come to, but would you consider a injury, like a severe injury occurring during or before an event as a choke as well? So like, let's give an example. If somebody was walking up to the they were walking up to the the stadium to perform, and they stepped on a piece of ice and it tore a ligament in their leg, would that also be considered a choke? Because that seems like that would be a direct analogy to this situation, but I highly doubt you would call that a choke.
No, because her getting the shakes, I wouldn't say would be equivalent to that.
But now you're saying she got the shakes, but we're not talking about that, and that's not the claim that was being made. It's not just a matter of the shakes.
She got the yips, the shakes, the twists, whatever like you want to call it this time.
It's like
the twisties.
Cute.
Yeah, okay, twisties. She got the twisties.
Yeah, but
psychological
agent,
How is
Before-
that
So
any
you're
different than like
inconsistent
a
on this,
physical ailment?
I want to.
It's
I
a
don't think,
it's a psychological issue that caused a physical.
I don't necessarily think Agent is on the same side that
It's not the
Sparky
same.
might die on. I think that Agent recognizes that choke is used in a pejorative. What the fuck is that word? I want to
Pejorative.
Pejorative. Sorry. So like, but at the same time, like I think Agent wants to have that word have a bit more utility outside of a negative connotation. Now, I would argue that maybe we should use a different word altogether, but I definitely
Sure.
see the idea of like, hey, like we should normalize people making decisions about their body. I don't think Agent's in opposition to that. Unless he is, I don't know.
Oh no, I know. Joe's painting it right. He's painting it right.
Yes.
All right, Sparky, what's this hill you're gonna die on?
Yep, it's Sparky.
All righty. So Maddie, thank you for your service in the NCAA combat field.
You're so welcome. It was my honor.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story where I actually hesitated. Just real quick. I was actually an aircraft mechanic for special operations groups, and we had to send all of our aircraft down to another area for some heavy maintenance while we were in theater. And so I got farmed out to a Cav Scout group where we had to go clear buildings. Because of my rank, I was made a fire team leader. And the first time that I had to go clear a building, real time, I looked at my corporal and I said, "Hey, bud, I'm scared. If I hesitate, grab the back of my IBA and use me as a freaking shield and go through that damn door because we have to do this mission. We have to do this. So if I hesitate, you grab it, you push me through, and that way, because the first person in is the most likely to get shot. It's called the cone of death." So I looked over at my breacher. I gave him the signal. The door gets blown off the hinges, and I hesitated. I felt that on the back, and as soon as I felt his hand grab my IBA, I went right in. Now, you could say that might be a choke. You could say that might be a yip. I would never claim to be the greatest at all at that. In fact, it wasn't my job. It was just an additional duty. You know, every soldier, an infantryman type mentality. But when it comes down to it, it wasn't my job, and I failed for a brief second. In fact, my first confirmed kill was actually a goat. That's a total other story. But yeah, it happened to be something of, hey, you see movement, you see it out the corner of your eye, and you fail to identify and you fired. Luckily, I didn't fire on an innocent individual. There are always performance issues.
Hey,
When it comes
but like, can we acknowledge that like this is the Olympics and not literal warfare? Like,
No.
I feel like
Well,
You try to put it
No.
to getting hit by a
This
car
guy-
earlier,
You
so I
guys
mean,
completely.
Wait, so Sparky, I'm
No,
lost.
we haven't.
I'm really,
Let's
I'm
be
No,
clear.
really
he
lost.
did.
And also to be clear, we're gonna move on very shortly because
Yeah.
this is mostly semantics, in my opinion.
It's
Like not like
pain.
a fundamental disagreement. So I'm gonna aircraft like you can wrap it up, but I
Yeah.
think we're gonna go into ending statements after aircraft. Everybody who raised their hand, you'll be able to make an ending statement during closings.
Yeah, it's just the point that, you know, when people go, "Oh, well, no one else here has competed." Well, combat is a competition. It really is. And look, you don't walk away with gold, silver, or bronze medals. I mean, you might get a silver or a bronze star, but really the only way you win is to survive. So in that case, Maddie, I think you're a little wrong, and I don't blame you for it. Look, most people, if they haven't been through that, they don't fully understand. And love to talk to you about it offline if you want.
Okay, we're gonna start top left hand corner with Agent 10.
yeah. So obviously Simone Biles is the greatest of all time. This one time she choked. She because of psychological pressures, she cracked. She faulted. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think if we try to destigmatize choking and instead of paint it in like term that like everyone deals with, multiple different industries, multiple different professions. If there's stress upon you mentally and you don't, go up the par, you're not up to snuff with it, you choked. It's by definition, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think she's one of the best athletes of all time, probably the best gymnast of all time, and I hope she gets well. And hopefully she'll be performing in the individual competitions later.
Okay, now we're gonna throw it over to aircraft again.
Look, nothing but well wishes to Simone Biles. I think she made a good decision for the team. She knew she wasn't in the right headspace, but it does put an asterisk on her record. part of being the GOAT is that you have to perform at the highest levels. You rise to the occasion. I'm not saying she doesn't have the chance to still be the GOAT. It just kind of tarnishes the record just slightly, and it's only because of that failure to perform. I mean, that's what athletes are supposed to do. That's what everyone in their profession is supposed to do. They're supposed to perform regardless of the stress levels. She had a snafu. No big deal. So, yeah, it's a controversy, but decent conversation.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to CounterPoints.
I don't think I missed anything by comparing conflict to sport. If you actually look at the origins of the Olympics, it was Greek city-states that said, instead of killing each other, why don't we compete in sport? I think there's a whole bunch of psychological analogies that are completely appropriate. I am happy to make them, no matter how frustrating they are to other people. And basically, yeah, that's it. So if we were to pull something from the car wreck that is Twitter discourse in reference to Simone Biles, then what I would say is that psychological issues should be maybe retreated as identical to physical ones, because as Demon Mama said, they're, the brain's an organ. And we shouldn't basically lambast people who had psychological issues when they were about to perform, but instead look at it as if you sprained your ankle. Let's put some ice on it. Let's figure it out. Let's get you back in the game. And on top of that, I think that would be quite psychologically beneficial, because what can happen to people who have a moment where they freeze or they shake up or whatever is that moment can stick with them for the rest of their lives because of the psychological stigma we associate with choking. And then as a result, they have a psychological break or a psychological freeze that they can't get past. I think that if we treated it more like a physical injury, then we would say, hey, pal, it's okay. Put some ice on it. Let's get you back in the game, and then start performing better. And I think it's a way healthier perspective that we can pull from this train wreck of discourse on twitter.com.
Okay, now we're throwing it over to Demon Mama.
Yeah, I mean, I think I made my main points clear here. I don't really care much for like people going back and forth about specific accolades or whatever. I think that we have an approach that generally minimizes the physicality of mental health, and it's seen as like some sort of ephemeral thing that is just disconnected, and it's just something that you can will yourself through every single time when you really can't. Especially with stuff like ADHD, there is quite literally different wiring and different chemicals in your brain that are functioning in a different way. So I wish people would take that a little better. I think that using language like choke and stuff for something like this isn't really appropriate, but whatever. It seems like a semantic difference. As long as people are willing to recognize that like looking down on someone for knowing their limits is like a really shitty thing to do, and also like doesn't accomplish what you want it to accomplish, then sure, I suppose that there's agreement on that.
Okay, could throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Oh, God damn it. I guess I'm going to channel my inner fanatic on this. I'm just getting really tired of people trying to put asterisks on black female athletes on the internet. It's really just like ridiculous to me. We did it to Serena Williams, whether she's like, oh, she's doing steroids or she's actually just a man in disguise. We do it to Sha'Carri Richardson, people claiming she's a crackhead or even a man. And in this case, like we did it with Naomi Osaka, it's either she's not black enough for people or she's not Japanese enough for people. And there's like different sort of like mental gymnastics people do to justify their racism. And something that I think that like is kind of concerning to me, and maybe it's just like, I'm not saying it's intentional, it's just really strange to me. We got to stop caveating black women. Like, she's the greatest of all time, period. We're probably not going to see another athlete of her caliber. It is probably as long as we're all going to be alive. So just give her the GOAT status, give her the greatest of all time status, but don't go through the semantic caveat of like, well, actually, because she didn't do this here, we had to put an asterisk on her entire career. Like, that's this real ridiculous standard. Consistently you wouldn't do it for other people, especially men. So we gotta just stop dying on that.
We do it for honkies all the time.
Yeah, so it's like it's just tiring. And even in the face of like the women's USA basketball team, the most prolific basketball team in the Olympics of all time, and one of the most prolific teams ever, gets slighted due to women's soccer. So it's just like, come on. Like, I understand, like, it's very easy to dunk on black women on the internet, but just don't do it on a panel. You know, like she's the GOAT. Just say she's the GOAT. And then we can argue with semantics, but come on.
The
Yeah.
only person who brought up race.
Okay, so let's be clear
It's
going
funny-
forward.
it's funny- it's funny the person- okay.
Let's fucking okay. During outros, nobody else talks while other people are saying outros, okay? And they have to be funny, Connor. If you're gonna do it, so you gotta make it funny.
You're talking, so I'm not going to talk.
Thank you very much. Throwing it over to Maddie.
Yeah, I mean, Simone Biles made a really difficult choice. Knowing that she's on the world stage, knowing that she had so many people who were excited to watch her perform, her teammates who were counting on her, she had to make a difficult choice, and she made a choice that prioritized her mental health. And I know here we may complain about debating semantics, but the reality is that the words you use absolutely matter. Referring to her looking out for her own mental well-being as choking serves to further stigmatize mental health. It devalues mental ailments and casts them as less than physical ailments. So if we're looking to make mental health more of a priority and to put mental issues on par with physical issues, watching the language that you use to describe them is a great place to start. And that begs the question, why is this choking, but a muscle pull isn't? Why does this cast her GOAT status into question, but when any other male athlete, or any other white athlete for that matter, dropped out due to injury, seemingly retain their prestige? And lastly, I'll say the military isn't sports. Gymnastics isn't combat. And it's not a question of who, if she gave into pressure. That's kind of devaluing what mental illness actually is. It's about paying attention to your psychological well-being. And finally, I'd like to say Charlie Kirk is a giant bucking baby.
Okay. Now we're going to throw it over to Kevin Castley.
Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, so I just want to quickly respond to Maddie from earlier because I was on the list to the point about the extent to which we're qualified to discuss the Olympics here, and particularly Simone Biles. We were all invited onto a panel here on the Hippy Dippy Roundtable by Dylan Burns. And, thanks for the invitation. It's always great to be here. But part of that is one of the topics that was on the list is we all get to give our opinion on the Olympics. And so now you, to Maddie, being somebody who's actually scholarship level sports, your opinion should probably be taken more seriously than a layperson like mine on this. But that doesn't mean that our opinion still isn't necessarily something that we could give. I mean, it's true for anything. It's like having an opinion on whether or not marijuana should be legalized without being, say, a judge or something like that. So to my closing remarks in general about this, I think that, she made the right call. I think that at the end of the day, this will be remembered in the grand scope of her career. That's true with any high level professional. I hold the same standard for everybody with regard, regardless of race, gender, etc. But at the end of the day, you do need to realize that, well, if you don't compete, then yes, somebody else can, potentially rival your status. Though that's very doubtful. And that's inevitable over the generations, of course. As it stands right now, no, she is the GOAT. It's just on a technicality, I agree with Agent 10. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go into the next topic. The next topic is one as old as time, but has gotten recently more attention due to news about Blizzard facing certain legal trouble. Is gaming culture toxic? And, past that, the industry as a whole? Is it toxic, or is it being misrepresented by evil people trying to oppress the most oppressed group in this country, gamers, once again? We're going to, this time, start in the bottom right-hand corner with Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So I consider myself a casual gamer. I play some games. I like DEF CON. I like Fortnite. I like Call of Duty. I've been playing more board games recently, though, than, online games. But I'll say this: when it comes to gamer culture in general, is there a degree of toxicity there? Absolutely. I think that if people are going to deny that there's been a toxic contingent in the gaming community, especially in the last 10 years, they're essentially gaslighting you. They're essentially the hashtag Gamergate bros that are, going to try to obfuscate any sort of criticism of what essentially is an art form. I mean, if games are like any other media, you do have to have criticism of that. And, there have been, historically speaking, there have been various media figures that have drawn criticism of particular games. And I see that no different than, say, being a film critic or whatnot. You can disagree with them, but there is definitely, and there has been a contingent. Now, it's a small minority, but there's a small minority of people in the gaming community, because gaming is such a large community, hundreds of millions of people, that, yeah, they would try to delegitimize them based on troglodytic, sexist, especially characterizations. And you saw that with the Gamergate. In general, in typical gameplay, there are, you go into random lobbies and stuff. Most people are pretty good. I mean, it depends on what game, right? But I mean, everybody knows the meme about the Call of Duty lobbies with a 10-year-old saying gamer words left and right, right? I mean, there is within gaming some contingents of people that basically see it as, well, I'm anonymous, so I'm going to use every racial slur. I'm going to use every sexist term possible. I'm going to be as demeaning even to people on my own team as possible. And that's something that over the years is definitely going to have to be resolved. And we're going to have to, basically recognize that, yeah, you might be anonymous, but that doesn't mean that you could treat people like crap. It doesn't mean that you could just use all these slurs left and right. But the magnitude of the people that actually do that is still such a very small subset of gaming at large, that on the other end of those who are more critics of this, that might say, well, gaming culture is toxic, they're extrapolating from a small minority and essentially casting aspersions upon all of gaming, which in my experience, most of gaming culture is actually relatively wholesome and inclusive. So thank you.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Maddie.
Yeah, I think the gaming industry, like gaming culture and the gaming industry, is extremely toxic. It is rife with misogyny, racism, homophobia. The Activision Blizzard case currently being litigated in California exemplifies a lot of the biggest issues at the industry level. This sort of boys club devaluing of the work of marginalized people like women and people of color. And just as someone who does game a lot, I come face to face with slurs, with really offensive language, damn near constantly. But I will say, as someone who's also been gaming for a long time, I've seen the culture slowly improve, at least in the spaces where I am. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think some of that starts with holding bad actors accountable and not just explaining away when someone uses a slur or uses really heinous language as, oh, but that's just gamer rage. That's what it is. We need to hold people accountable if we want the culture to improve. So I'm interested to see where this case with Activision Blizzard goes. And I'm also interested to see what more gamers do in order to cultivate a better, more welcoming environment. That's my point.
Now we're gonna throw it over to a person who looks like is that a turtleneck sweater, Kat? Wonderful. I'm happy you could stop slam poetry for a single moment to join our panel. We're gonna throw it over to Kat. You can also introduce yourself as you comment on the topic, which is gaming as a whole toxic, and of course the industry as a whole.
Sure. So hello. I am Katarina. I do political streams, but I also am a physicist. So we talk.
Kind of hard to
about
hear you.
science.
Would it be possible for you to understand technology?
No, not for you, but
Thank you.
Okay, cool. No, there, I'll use this microphone. Hopefully that's a bit better. Cool. Yeah, so I'm Kat. I'm a physicist. I do leftist politics and I do debates. But also, I answer this question. Just let me do that. So, is gaming like as a culture inherently toxic? No, I don't think anything inherently is toxic. And I think depending on like which games you play, really fosters different types of environments. The environment of Celeste is not like the same environment for playing Hitman. It's not the same environment for playing Battlefield. And all of these different games foster different types of communities. So inherently, yeah, there's nothing about gaming that makes it just naturally toxic, but for some reason, specific types of games will really foster a toxic environment. But in terms of the workplace, even outside of the current sexual harassment issues, I think the gaming workplace breeds a lot of issues, starting from the expectation for people to basically give up their entire lives to be at their studio all the time. Crunch culture definitely does not give way to good mental health, does not give way to good relations between colleagues, and then from there definitely does not give way to good sexual relations in a workplace when you're basically living at your workplace. Once again, are those inherent? No, these are all just problems with like people trying to get like squeeze out every single like inch of life force out of you. And so that's my opener.
Wonderful. Now we're going to go to the top so we can mix it up, and we're going to start with Agent 10.
Okay, so first off, fuck Activision Blizz. I haven't given them a single dime since the Hearthstone Hong Kong incident, and I refuse to even like think of the possibility of doing it in the future. I think gaming culture, especially like how we treat women, is extremely horrible. I have a 13-year-old sister. I hear it all the time. She's a huge gamer. It's horrible. I'd love for it to change. But outside of slurs and demeaning people for their individual characteristics, gaming culture being toxic in itself isn't specific or isn't exclusive to gaming culture. For example, Twitch politics, extremely toxic. I love half of you, and then I want to, I don't want anything to do with you half the other time. So, if I'm gaming with Joe Lewis and I tell him I'm going to fuck his mom in a COD lobby, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But when we start getting the other stuff, the gamer words, the whole slurs, everything like that, that's when you lose me. But gaming itself being toxic, I don't see it. But also, again, fuck Activision Blizzard.
Wonderful. This is semi on topic, but I would go a different angle than the fucking of mothers. Personally, we want to be inclusive here. As
you could get his father. I could get the mother.
I was not saying that, but I'm just going a different angle. We're gonna throw it over to Aircraft.
Alrighty, so when it comes to ideas of gaming, the gaming environment being toxic, it's actually quite easy to see. With certain games, you're going to have different types of communities, I guess, and the toxicity of them will vary. Usually, the more PvP style, the more confrontational people are in chat because they're trying to get you off your game. Go play football. Go get there on the line and see how linemen talk to each other. Man, I have heard some foul shit come from both sides on the football field. So who cares? Don't like it? Turn off the freaking voice. You have that option. When it comes to what's going on to activism, Blizzard, all the stuff in the workplace, I don't know everything that's going on in it. If there's harassment going on, there's sexual harassment. Well, there's laws against that, and I guess that'll all get sorted out in the courts. I don't know enough to speak properly on that, but I've been in enough COD lobbies. I've played League of Legends. I played EVE Online for 12 years, for Christ's sakes, top 500 in the world in PvP. Yeah, shit talk happens. If you can't accept it, then don't play the game. It is what it is. If you're allowing words to hurt you that bad, that's a you problem, not an anyone else problem.
Okay. We're going to throw it over to CounterPoints.
Yeah. I really bounce between what I want people to do depending on the day. One thing that I always recommend is treating people in the online space as if they were in the room with you. I think that's like my advice to very young people. because I want them to stop thinking of the internet as this anonymous space in which you get to say whatever you want and be as cruel or mean or manipulative or shitty as you want, and not face any kind of social consequence. So if you start treating people the way you would in real life, then maybe we can reduce the toxicity of these spaces, including video game lobbies. That being said, I am of another mind where I am hoping that 150 years from now, Joe Lewis's children and my, great grandchildren and Joe Lewis's great grandchildren are making fun of each other for their immutable characteristics, but in a way in which they both know that they're having fun. So I flip one way or the other, depending on the mentality and depending on the day. And I also have to wonder about the vent. So violence in the United States has actually halved since 1990. There's a lot of different variables that contribute to this. Improvements in medical treatment is one of them. And then basically there's a whole host of other reasons that basically this has happened. One of the factors that I think is interesting to consider, I don't think it's been studied, is actually video games. We spend a lot of time inside. We spend a lot of time competing with each other online. I think that's an interesting variable that should be analyzed in the totality of the decrease of human violence. And I'm wondering if, while disgusting, if this is a better vent than what would human beings would do in the real world. So more of a question than a statement.
Okay. Now we're going to throw it over to Demon Mama.
I have been a gamer for my entire life. One of the earliest photos of me is me playing a game called Degeneration on my dad's lap when I was a tiny baby. I have been involved in gaming very intensely for all of my life. I've gone to conventions. I've gone to I've done tabletop games with 1,000 players. Gaming is probably my primary hobby. That's a hobby. I don't make games, but I love them. I review them. I talk about them all the time. Gaming is fucked. I want you all to completely understand that. It's not a matter of intrinsicality. I don't think that games are what makes this the way. But the culture in gaming is so rotten. It is so viciously bad. And we see that reflected in the industry. And the industry is worse than you know. If you think the Blizzard stuff is shocking, just wait. There's going to be more coming out, inevitably, a lot more. In fact, I was just on Twitter a few minutes ago, and I happened to see a new article has been released speaking about another incident at Activision Blizzard. So this is going to continue happening. Gaming spaces online are some of the most toxic and intolerable places to be, regardless of who you are, but especially if you belong to a marginalized identity. The amount of transphobia and that I have received online, you might think, oh, damn, transphobia, how are people going to know you're trans? Well, they hear your voice and they clock you as, well, that's feminine, but it's not necessarily feminine enough. And then they say they're going to, I'm sorry to say these words, but rape me in a bathroom, which is something I've been told multiple times while playing video games. I don't play games on voice anymore. And you all know that I'm here debating with people, dealing with heat every single day, but it's not fun. I don't play those multiplayer games anymore because they're that bad. It's not just a matter of, oh, people shit talking. People go so far beyond. They're so unhinged about the way that they defend this space that it actually damages the industry, because the industry could be twice as big as it is if they fostered multiplayer game spaces that actually allowed for women and trans people and gay people to participate, and people of color to participate without dealing with hate, but they don't. Gaming is misogynistic and chauvinistic to its core. Every single festival, every single con that I've gone to, while there are many, many wonderful people, is pervaded by a persistent culture of disgusting hate. And the rape culture in gaming is almost uncomparable. I can't even think of any other community I've participated in where sexual assault and just outright rape is been made into a joke than in gaming. And all of it is under this backbone of, oh, it's just video games. Oh, it's just video games. But it's not. There's a lot of people working on those, making their livings on them. There's a lot of people who've made their livings discussing these things. Sure, the games themselves are just games, but the culture around it is rotten to its core.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Oh, God. I guess I'm going to speak on behalf of the fighting game community here, and I'm sorry. Y'all are about to get dragged across the earth. Also, shout out to all the Aries subs. Also, Aries, you can go fuck yourself, piece of shit, asshole. Aries is a variety streamer who commentates Tekken, and he said dead ass in an interview that sexual harassment is part of the fighting game community culture. And it's funny to me that one of the faces of Tekken commentary has the bravery in 2012 to make a statement like that. We have individuals like Low Tier God who openly told a trans woman that unless she, and I'm quoting here, gets her dick slit, then she's not a real woman. And if she doesn't go through that surgery, she's not that. And then when he got banned for that comment, he dug, and his community dug through hours worth of content to find the same individual say the N-word once, casually. And then all of a sudden, she gets banned. And then, in the face of this individual getting unbanned by Capcom, there's still people who say Low Tier God did nothing wrong. What he said was justified because insert sexism, insert misogyny. And there's and what's crazy to me as a fighting game player is that it's blatant. You know, like back in, I think it was 2016 or 17, Christopher Gonzalez, also known as NY Chris G, said, and I'm quoting you, "I live the scene. You know how many black, quote, girl gamers have to hit me up about sex, but can't even do a simple DP motion in Street Fighter? These are facts. The FGC stays away from most of them for a reason." And it's like, what the fuck? This is a dude who signed to Evil Geniuses at the time. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And then all of a sudden, EG is like, we have now found this conduct and we consider it unacceptable. Motherfucker, you should have vetted this asshole. I knew Chris G is a sexist, racist, sexist piece of shit. I knew that Filipino champ, played in a tournament match, during a money match, Kazunoko. Kazunoko was playing somebody. Filipino champ took a picture, wrote the F slur on it, and put it in front of him mid-match. And that just went under the rug. But then he gets banned for saying watermelon lives matter. Like, I can't sit here and, as a member of the fighting game community, and not act like these spaces are incredibly toxic, because they are. I think moving forward, we had to do certain mechanisms, right? I think we have to have better strategies for having to face this in the forefront. That's from the community leaders, those who are running the events, as well as the corporations who are running these games. We had to have better investment in community management from the top down. And we also just had to expand grouping mechanisms so that people feel welcome in these spaces. Like, the fighting game community has a multitude of problems. I don't really want to get into those too much tonight, but it's insane to me how there's people who, like, I get you want to live in your little safe space and your little gaming culture, and you think like this doesn't exist, but it does exist. And the more it continues to get ignored, you'll be fine in this. I guess, like, you'll still pony up your coin, but in reality, people are getting hurt in this. And if you're a leftist or whatever left-leaning thought you have, and you just let this go on and on and on, you can just go fuck yourself. Like, you're like, seriously, that's all I got for now. Let's party.
Okay. Now it is open to the floor. You may begin.
Yeah. I just want to talk about, like, I want to bring some attention to, like, two ideas. Or two things. First of all, one of our fellow streamers on this platform, a absolutely incredibly talented gamer and streamer named Hafu, recently spoke about an experience she had in 2008 at a World of Warcraft regional qualifier, Internationals regional qualifier. By the way, Hafu would go on to be the world's best, still holding that title, Resto Druid of all time. And at the time, she was 17. A team was allowed to qualify for the regionals and be posted up. She had to go up against them and see this on the leaderboards, a team that was called We Are Going to Rape Hafu at regionals. And that was allowed. That was allowed by Blizzard. That was allowed by the esports people. That is the sort of level of shit that we're going at. And has it gotten better? Well, In some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. What has happened is that lots of marginalized people have made enclaves within gaming. Guilds that are explicitly LGBT friendly are a big portion of that. Websites that sponsor guilds that are specifically LGBT friendly, but the culture itself has not changed. And I don't know if there is a way to fix that culture. I think that there's a good chance that we are going to simply have to build it all over again and get rid of the standards that we understand as the sort of backbones of gaming. Because as it stands right now, it is an industry that is the community around it. And gaming, by the way, has always been criticized for this, for having an enthusiast press, for having, the community is largely made up and driven by the companies themselves. So like there's this huge corporate aspect to a lot of the communities, and that still holds to this day. I don't know when you have
Check.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Wait, your mic cut out.
There we go.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Discord's a little weird. I mean, we're talking about corporations that have functionally set up pipelines of rape, where they bring in inexperienced people, women and femmes, and then they bring them in and they're victimized. They're told all this is normal. I did approximately 5 hours of coverage of the Activision Blizzard segment, and one of the things that every single female victim who came forward repeated over and over again was, I felt like I was the only one. The isolation is ridiculous. And these are structural. These are from the very top. And these same people who built these structures are the ones who then determine much of the culture. I think gaming is in a very, very bad place. And I love video games. I really do. But like, this is more than just a little bit of toxicity. This is a culture that has basically that takes people, encourages them to get involved in things they're passionate about, and then completely destroys them mentally, physically, and emotionally. That's horrible. And it is predominantly targeted at femme presenting people.
Yeah, I mean, like, even in the fighting game community, it took a fucking village to ban OMG It's Andre, despite the fact that this individual openly, whether it be through people seeing it happen or it being actually caught and dropped by other people, of sexually assaulting women at multiple events. And then even in the face of that, it takes somebody in a chat when he's on the On Blast show calling him out while he's on there. And then all of a sudden we want to take it seriously. And then like there's other scenarios like Noelle Brown. Fucking Noelle Brown groped a girl on camera at a tournament, and everybody saw it. It was live in 4K on Team Spooky stream. You see Noelle Brown groping a girl on stream. And then it takes a village just to get him suspended. And even then it took weeks. Like, it's ridiculous. And again, caught in 4K, clipped and shipped, and then the mechanisms that led to the actual repercussions took an insane amount of time, despite the fact that the evidence was right there. I think moving forward, there needs to be a stronger emphasis on community management and making sure the communities are held accountable, right? Like, again, like I'm from a community where we openly gambled on stream, did like money gambles, despite the fact that it was illegal in a lot of states. Multiple accounts of sexual assault caught on camera, multiple accounts of sexual deviance. Well, I'll say in terms of deviance, people saying questionable things about people during mid-tournament matches from commentators. That's all caught in 4K across multiple fighting game streams. And this is just something that's been rampant. And then all of a sudden, like, there's been this sort of like drying period because of multiple platform transitions of consoles. It's like, no, if you're a community manager, I think that for all communities, this should be your utmost concern, because when you're looking to branch out for sponsorships and stuff like that, you don't want to have to answer to like, why did it take so long for you to suspend OMG It's Andre? Why did it take so long for you to suspend Filipino Champ, Chris G, Justin Wong, Fnatic? Like, why does it take so long for these individuals to see types of repercussions? The Fnatic, like, and again, he saw repercussions as well. And like, it's the issue here is that, especially in the fighting game community, everybody has different examples of that. And then even in the face of being Facebook friends with these tournament organizers, it still takes a village for these organizers to even see any type of repercussion. And it's unfortunate, right? And again, like, I'm not trying to sit here and slander Fnatic there, but he can attest too about the abuse that's in that community.
Listen, I can't speak for all the right wingers here, but I am just itching to, like, aggressively defend sexual assault, rape, racism,
It's the best.
xenophobia. Like, I am just itching to share all of. No, get the fuck out of here. We're all on the same goddamn page. This is ridiculous.
Exactly.
Listen. In 2007, I could have said some fucking edgy shit. And I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody when they're 19. And that's what I was talking about with Event. I don't want to punish teenagers for being edgy as fuck, but I was actually racking my brain for something as bad as some of the shit you said. And I just think these fucking Zoomers are on some other shit. Like seriously, I heard a 9/11 joke about 10 years ago. That was fucking, hit me a little hard. And I was like, holy shit, these fucking Zoomers and fucking Alpha, they're going to be fucking intense. Well, apparently they all got together, got on a 4chan board, came up with shit that would offend me, which is impressive. And they did it. So congratulations, Zoomers. You've officially destroyed free speech. We don't need it anymore. Thanks. We had a good run.
As the Zoomer here,
Hey.
I'm going to agree a bit with that. I just don't think we have
Y'all ruined
wait.
gaming.
Wait, there's two people talking at the same time. I heard Demon Mama start, so I'm gonna go Demon Mama first, then Agent, then we're gonna go to Maddie, then Cat, and then man, we're just going straight to the. Okay,
I'll be right back.
okay, we're gonna go Demon Mama, then Agent. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there is plenty to be said about the toxicity of like chat rooms and in-game stuff, but it goes so far beyond that. So there's been a lot of talk over many years in gaming about how like the enthusiast press problem was a huge issue. You would have the gaming journalism and not, Gamergate was invoked, but let's separate this from the conversation around Gamergate. Games journalism on the corporate level, even though Gamergate was fixated on indie, which was silly, but on the corporate level was so corrupt, it's unbelievable. Like, we're talking like the journalists would all just be invited to like after parties where they would be handed all kinds of swag, and then they would literally hire strippers for these journalists who are going to be covering the game. And this was just commonplace in the gaming industry until like the mid 2000s. That was just commonplace. It was very normal for that. I've been to that type of after party that are thrown for these types of events. And it's again, it's not just like Zoomers being good at coming up with good swears or mean jokes. It's not that. It's that there is a culture from the very top of the industry to the bottom of complete dehumanization and a disrespect for other people, an inability to do anything but focus on profit and the gaming. And instead of this leads to so many issues. It leads to the rape culture. It leads to the crunch culture. All of these are derivative of the same thing. And the people who are propagating this, they're not Zoomers. These guys are people who've been around for a long time. Whether it's Bobby Kotick, or whether it's Yves Guillermo, or whether it's even Mike Morheim. All of these old studio bigwigs have been around forever, and they built these structures. They put people into positions of power where they were the one. If you needed to report somebody for rape or for sexual assault, well, guess what? You either have to talk to the person who did it to you, or you have to talk to the person who put them in that position, and that person doesn't care because they've probably done it themselves. And what this does is it has a knock-on effect all the way down, because what you have is if you have a corporation that's making these games that doesn't give a fucking shit about rape happening in their building, well, then what makes you think that their community team is going to be given the tools necessary to get rid of rapey language or to get rid of threats or harassment? They're not. It comes from the top. And I think that, like, if I was to say that, like, to propose a solution, it would be these companies should be sued into the ground. Activision Blizzard, EA, Ubisoft, all of these companies that are having all of this stuff come out, they need to be investigated and sued into the ground. And if they go out of business, that's for the best. Start the games industry over with totally different people, with lessons that we learned from it. But it's not like you can't change when Bobby Kotick has made millions of dollars in settlements for sexual assault cases over the years, and he's the guy who calls all the shots. That's just that's not fixable. That's root problems.
Okay, we're gonna go to Agent next.
Yeah, I think we need to ease off the black pill a little bit, right? I don't think gaming's rotten to the core. I don't think we have to destroy everything just to build it back up, right? There's plenty of good gaming companies who are designing games right now that are great, such as Bungie. Bungie's a huge franchise player with Destiny right now, and they used to make Halo. Destiny, the game, is one of the best-selling MMO FPSs, looter shooters out there right now. They have an extremely progressive view on everything. Their community managers are always on top, and their reporting system is top notch. There is hope, right? We're bringing up instances of 2008, 2012 of horrific fucking things. And gaming still now has a lot of fucking work to be done, but I think we are going in a better direction where like now maybe you don't need a whole village to go after for, it's not a fighting game that I know, but like Smash Bros, which is like sort of like a pseudo fighting game. It's like you don't need the village, you might need half a village. Now, is that too much? Yes, you shouldn't need half a village, but it's better than what it was, right? I also want to, hit back on the Zoomer slander a little bit. It's like, we didn't make this. This has been around for a long, long time. We're just really good at insults.
Yeah,
I'm
you just
just
took
gonna-
it too
I'm gonna
fucking
have to
far.
defend
Holy
my people.
shit!
Look, Connor.
Well,
look,
I mean,
I
the
don't know,
thing is-
man.
Holy shit!
I appreciate that there are some studios that do better than others, but like Activision Blizzard is the biggest gaming company in the world.
It
by,
is,
like,
and
a
heads
long-
should roll. They should get
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Sue
And
Bl-
you
agree
wanna
with you
know
on
what
that.
the- you wanna
I
know
don't
one of
think
the
it's
other
rotten
things
to the
about
core,
this?
though.
It
Sure.
is, but I mean that is the core. That's the core. Riot, Ubisoft, all of the biggest companies, the vast majority of gaming. What I'm saying is that the vast majority of gaming studios, the games that are being made, the most popular games in the world, all of the money are concentrated into firms that are rape factories.
And thank God they're getting their just desserts, and hopefully they burn.
They're not. They're not yet. We haven't
I
even.
mean, now
we
it
haven't
seems
even
like there's
done.
some type of movement that's going to be doing some type of progress.
I like
I've
the
seen
idea.
no repercussions.
Yeah,
yet.
there's been no
It's
repercussions so
tangible.
far.
Isn't Blizz?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this news just
Well,
There's
broke.
no
The
tangible
investigation
repercussions.
ended,
I
and
am
Blizz
having.
Activision is getting sued
Wait.
out their ass by the California government.
Yeah.
Okay. So
hasn't
sorry,
been
there was a
litigated.
lot of people responding there. So Agents is finished. Demon was trying to respond to that, and then we'll throw it over to Joe. Then we got to go to the list, which is then Maddie, then Kat.
Riot Games is another massive studio that has had. I mean, I can't even keep count of it anymore. And I can tell you this again. This is just one where, hey, sorry, this is a little anecdotal, but my best friend is a very, very experienced and well connected game designer, and like there is so much more that hasn't even come out yet, and it might never come out. This one lawsuit, yes, it's a victory, of course it is, but we don't even know if they're going to find a way to wiggle out of it, and most of the people involved are going to wiggle out of it. The company itself might even wiggle out of it. The problem that we have is, again, it's not a matter of being black-pilled. The black-pilled fact is just that gaming has been like this since it started. It's been corrupted from its beginning. It's been viewed as completely frivolous, and it's truly rotten. The biggest companies are all the ones that are having these issues. CD Projekt Red is another one, massive, highly critically acclaimed company, having people they have to assign breakdown rooms because their culture is so bad. It is root. It is a root issue. It's not just a couple of companies. The exception by a long shot is a good studio, and usually it's studios that are small enough that the employees actually have a say in what's going on. I really think that people aren't taking this seriously once again because it's games, it's video games, and but what we're talking about is for the people who work there, it's not video games, it's their job, and they might be producing video games, but what they do every single day is, if you work at a place like Blizzard and Riot, get sexually assaulted and sexually harassed on a daily basis. And it is that bad. Riot has had multiple lawsuits about this. There is more coming out. I know there is, because they've already said this stuff is being litigated right now. Blizzard, this is blowing the cap off at Blizzard, but people have been talking about this. I'm not even a game developer, and I've known about this. The games industry, gamers need to recognize that the industry is completely fucked. And the sooner that people realize that, the sooner they take it seriously, because we should be able to make games, but we can't do it while we're being choked out by again, rape factory companies like Activision Blizzard, the #1 gaming company in the world, like Ubisoft, one of the top 10 gaming companies in the world, like Riot, owned by Tencent, the second biggest gaming company in the world, I believe. That's the industry. There you have it. It is the root.
Okay, now we're gonna go to Maddie and then Kat.
out by first saying, Demon Mama, I watched. Oh, she's leaving. Well, I want to say I watched her coverage of Activision Blizzard, and the amount of detail she went into researching it, and it was extremely well done. So I just wanted to commend her on that. I'll send her a DM since she's not at this chair right now. But I also wanted to say the locker room talk excuse for toxic behavior is just kind of weak. It is a little disappointing to hear victim blaming being used as an excuse for really shitty behavior. You can talk shit without being toxic or being a total asshole. Locker room talk isn't an excuse for sexism, racism, homophobia, for just like rage lashing out at someone. That's called having a temper tantrum. And maybe we should socialize that temper tantrums are unacceptable. And what's also disappointing is seeing people explain those things away as just, oh, that's just gaming. That's just how it is. If you don't like it, you can leave. That's, again, just weak. It's blaming the victim for being confronted with an onslaught of just really shitty and heinous things that they shouldn't have to put up with. You know, in high school, believe it or not, I used to compete in StarCraft tournaments. I loved it. That was back in the day where you had to go to like a LAN party thing where they had actual storefronts where you go and play video games there together. And I used to compete, but I ended up not competing anymore because just, especially as a woman, like as soon as people find out that you're a woman, you get confronted with just some really disgusting shit. And I decided that I didn't want to deal with that anymore, because also when I complained about it, no one took it seriously. That's improved a little bit. But if I were a gaming company, I would take it a lot more seriously. I think about all the people who maybe would otherwise be interested in playing video games and don't, because they don't want to be harassed. They don't want to have to put up with that kind of treatment constantly just to play a game. If I were a gaming company, I would take this a hell of a lot more seriously if I look to expand my player base in the near future.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Katarana.
Yeah, mean, the whole idea of it being like just a gaming company, like I don't give a fuck if they're manufacturing buttons. Like if I go to work, I have the right to like go to work and go home and not want to like hang myself in my office on the way. Like your job is to go there, produce a product, and maybe if you're passionate about it, love a product and go home. But like your job is not like supposed to be like trying to like dodge dicks out of your face all day. Like that's not supposed to be your work environment. Hot take. But it's not like, okay, if that's the culture, like it's not like, oh, like that really sucks. I guess maybe you're not strong enough. Like I don't think anybody's supposed to be strong enough for like dodging like dicks all day. And like even let's say if I'm like just a player, it's not just like log off. I know like aircraft, you were saying like just log off. But like no, I paid fucking $70 for this dumbass game. I'm gonna milk every goddamn cent out of it. Look, like it just doesn't make any sense. There's like thousands of people that didn't go to sleep for 5 weeks, so I could sit there and shoot somebody in the face, and I'm gonna shoot real good. Like that's my right to do. And like people, I shouldn't have to like sit there and be miserable to get the full like experience of my game. I should be able to sit there and be in like a generally hospitable environment. I'm not expecting everybody to say like, okay, honey, you're so good. Oh, you made us lose. We love you. That's not what I'm expecting. But I also don't think that like I should be able to take out a counter for every time somebody calls me like hard R N-word. Like it's not one or the other. We can have like just general civility. It doesn't really seem like it should be like that complicated. And it's nice, but yet unfortunate that it seems that like only indie development like houses are able to foster decent environments. Like, places in which like a lot of the leadership are marginalized people seem to be a lot better overall. I mean, who would have thought? But also like it shouldn't have to, I shouldn't have to only be able to apply for like 5 places, because otherwise it's going to be like, women can't even code, get the fuck out of here. Like I've spoken to people that like work at the Ubisoft office and work on Assassin's Creed. They don't fucking like it. Like, just having a vagina, they just don't really fucking like it. But, they're going to sit there because they're passionate about something, but you can only be passionate beyond up to a certain extent. And then eventually the passion gets sucked out of you, and then you just basically burn out. And like, no one spends like 4 years to get a degree just to burn out in 4 years. It's just unfair.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to aircraft.
All right. Thank you so much. Look, great points, everyone. Hey, Demon Mama, you should get Space Marines, and we can commit exterminatus on the Goblin population. We can have a blast with that. Black Templars for the win. Just saying. Hey, let's separate first of all the professional environment from the gaming environment. Talking about overt activism and everything. What's going on there? Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about it, but look, if you have sexual harassment going on, that is illegal. It should not exist. I think we can all agree with that. And look, that is an HR issue. That is a civil issue. It's things that are now showing up in courts, and hopefully all that gets resolved. When it comes to actually in the game lobbies and stuff, you have the choice to turn off the voice. You have a choice to just ignore it. I hear some insanely toxic stuff online, even here on Twitch Politics, and I just either ignore it or I go, their opinion, moving on. But maybe that's just difference in the way I think. I've heard some foul stuff. Being in the military, one of the most toxic environments is literally being in the military. You'll hear some of the most insanely disgusting things. And it's just a way of, I guess, learning how to thicken your skin. And I get it. Look, there's some people that are going to attack people based on immutable characteristics. I think that's childish, stupid, and it shouldn't happen. It's not something that I engage in myself. I don't really use the N word. I don't pick on people for being this, that, or the other. I don't really care. I will talk a little smack, but this is not unique to just video gaming. This is on the field. This is everywhere. This is part of life. Smack talk exists, and some people take it too far, but that's a maturity thing. That truly is. And I think we're making a bigger deal on the lobby side of it, not the actual professional side. And that's just the professional side. I think everyone's in full agreement. I think where the disagreement is, for the most part, would be in the gaming lobby. And look, this isn't only happening in the video game industry. There's movies about this in Hollywood. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, so we have a bunch of people on the list, and a lot of people want to respond to this. So Kevin is first in line, then Connor, then Joe, then Demon. Is there anybody who particularly wants to respond to Aircraft Sparky, since he just said it? It's fresh, so raise your hand if you want to respond to specifically what he just said. Okay, that's now another person added to the list. Okay, so I'm just going to go in order of when they raise their hand. Raise your hand one more time. Sorry, I was writing another hand down. Okay, so for those who want to respond to what Aircraft just said specifically. Okay. Joe, Demon, then Cat. So Joe's gonna go because he's the first on the list then.
Sparky, are you trying to suggest that individuals need to just hand wave the words that people say to them?
I'm just saying that people take a little bit too much stock in the words people say towards them. People who don't know you, when they throw out an insult, if you take it personally, that's a you problem, and you need to grow a little bit of skin.
Sure. So Kyrie Irving gets called the N-word multiple times at Celtics home game. Should he have thicker skin, or what should be his procedure of fans saying the N-word multiple times in front of him?
What does Kyrie Irving do in response? Does he burn down the stadium? Does he go and punch people in the face? No, he plays.
Well, he gets those fans ejected.
Well, and that's fine too. That's fine too. But you know what? At least they're doing it to his face. Most people hide behind a screen and sit there and go, "Oh my God, this person is that," and everything else. And people get offended by that. Look, your pixels on a screen to me.
This take is fucking stupid. I gotta stop you. So
yeah.
This take is really, really stupid. So like,
I don't care.
The problem. Yeah, you don't care, but you're okay with people taking certain types of actions, when they're met with certain types of hate speech. But in the same time, you say grow thicker skin. So is it grow thicker skin, or do you think that people should have the agency to be able to make sure people are held accountable for their words?
If
Like,
they
which
wanna report
reality are we
people-
living in here?
If they want to report people, they're free to do that. But here's the deal: a lot of times the mods in these lobbies can't act quick enough, can't actually go back and look at what is actually going on unless it's done in a text format.
That's
and
a
so
dumb
they
take.
can't actually
That's a
enforce
dumb
that.
take. That's a dumb
Oh,
take.
I can talk
okay.
on this.
You know, you know for a
Please do,
fact.
Demon Mama,
You,
because
no,
of
no, no.
this-
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
Okay.
I haven't talked about this for a really long time. I sat here listening to the hyperbolicness of calling things rape factories, and now we have Sparky going on this weird hill of this dumb shit. So we'll talk about the rape factories in a second, but I'm gonna go after Sharpie a bit because this take is the stupidest fucking thing I've heard in a very long time on these panels. So there's at some point there's going to be some type of prescription that has to happen. You acknowledge that individuals should be able to have some type of repercussion for the words that they say. Simultaneously, you've acknowledged in other discussions before that you don't really agree with these type of repercussions because things like racism and sexism are so arbitrary and they're hard to define and quantify in real life. So I'm trying to understand what your take is here because it's inconsistent with what you said in the past. So formally, do you think that people should be held accountable for the words that they say?
When people say something to another person towards their face, okay, there is going to be individual consequences for that. When they do it behind a screen and they sit there and they're not even showing their face like what you see in most game lobbies, there's a lot less opportunity for actual accountability to happen. What do I
How
advocate
and
for?
why?
Nothing, because I sit there and go, words hurt. Okay, well, I mean, if that's the way you take it, go for it. But
So you don't support.
I don't freak
so,
out over. I don't freak out over being. I've been called all kinds of things.
Yeah, because because of your immutable characteristics, you're not going to fall victim to the type of hate speech that could happen to other people with
Do you
immutable
even know
characteristics.
my immutable characteristics, bro? I mean,
Oh my God! First, the brain is an organ, and now do you even know my immutable characteristics?
Well,
Holy
no,
shit.
no, because Mama said a brain is an organ. I admit, yes, the brain is an organ. That's not a hot take. That's not even.
And the Kurds
wrong.
aren't in Afghanistan. The Kurds aren't in Afghanistan. This is gonna be a rough day. So
What?
it's a callback
It's
to
an
another
old,
panel.
it's an old meme. Don't worry about
It's
it.
an old meme.
That's an old
Yeah.
meme right there.
I-
That's an old meme right there.
Yeah.
So-
Good
Call
times, good times.
So Sparky, I'm trying really hard to do you understand that because of your immutable characteristics, certain words cannot be used in the same way that they could be used on, say, Demon Mama? Can you recognize that at the very least?
I know that trans individuals have been treated a specific way. Certain
I'm not
words that
talking.
you-
I'm not
dehumanize
loading
them,
it. I'm
and I
not
don't
loading
think
it
it's
on the
good.
individual. I'm not loading it on the identifiable things that they've said. I'm asking you directly, just by looking at Demon Mama, you can understand that their experience based on their immutable characteristics is going to be different. Don't try to play jujitsu on identifying the things and acknowledging the differences, right? You acknowledge. I'm just gonna just count it as acknowledgement. You acknowledge that to be true. Great. So you understand that maybe Demon Mama is going to need certain protections that maybe you might use them from time and time again, but they might have to be, unfortunately, explicitly designed for her. Do you understand that?
Sure.
Okay. So do you think that those things should exist in games, including extending to speech?
No, I don't believe hate speech is a thing. I don't.
Wait.
Okay.
Okay, so
Did I just
Yes!
break
there's a
their
difference, there's a
Okay.
difference between the
Evidence
First
next.
Amendment, you having the right, say,
I'm
for
gonna go with
example, to
popcorn.
say like the N-word or something, versus actually having real world consequences for it. So technically, you could go in a COD lobby and say all kinds of racial slurs. But if people recognize your voice and say, oh yeah, that guy said a bunch of racial slurs and here's the proof, well, the question is, should people be held accountable for it? I actually agree with Joe Lewis on this. I get where Sparky's coming from in that, you know, it's a vast world. It's a vast world, hundreds of millions of gamers. How do you police all that? You can't, but you could say the same thing for crime. Where are the clearance rates for crime? Most crime that happens goes unpunished. That doesn't
You are
mean you
right.
don't punish where it exists. You don't make an attempt to try to hold people accountable. I think report systems should definitely be bolstered. And I think that companies that ultimately refuse to adapt and enhance and bolster their reporting and moderating mechanisms, perhaps they should face lawsuits depending on the extent of the harassment and whatnot that occurs. But nobody's arguing you don't have the free speech to be like a racist bigot. The question
Well,
is
I'm
about
not even
accountability, and
arguing
I'm
the free
actually
speech.
you actually got me agreeing with Joe a little bit right here. So
Fly,
and
fly,
we've
you
got a lot of
hawk.
disagreements.
Fly,
We
you
got a
hawk.
lot of disagreements. So
So like okay,
Wait,
so
wait,
Sparky,
I wanted to make sure other people got time to talk. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure. So in the order, it's Connor, Demon, then Cat. But Connor didn't want to respond to anything Aircraft said. So Connor, would you want to go after them or want to go
Yeah,
now?
sure. Like, listen, this is all we're painting a really broad strokes here. Like, what are we talking about? What should be the rule set for like a LAN party or a private lobby if everybody is on the same page? Well, for me, I don't give a fuck. If everybody's on the same page, they should be able to say whatever the fuck they want. When it comes to a public lobby or something like that, maybe there's just some words that are too hot for everybody to handle. So maybe we should just ban those ones. Either you can like I don't know if they're going to have the ability to like auto detect voice, but they can auto detect text at this point. So maybe we can increase reporting features for this. I think Kevin brought up a good point with like, if there's a way in the next decade to report voice, then maybe that should be the TOS, the terms of service in public lobbies. Maybe that needs to be updated so everybody's on the same page. I can talk about fucking your mom. I can't talk about your race. That's perfectly fine. I think that's acceptable. And then when we're talking about professional gamers, I think professional gamers, as in all professions, they need to be held to a higher standard, whether that's the corporations that manufacture games or professionals who make money off of playing games. Those are the people that need to be held to a higher standard. They shouldn't win a tournament, walk off of stage, and they're just like, oh, well, I'm an asocial. Oh, man, almost went ableist. I'm asocial as fuck, so I'm just going to grab this person's boob in front of national television. No, that's not acceptable. You should be fined and basically kicked out of the arena, maybe banned, suspended, whatever. So I think we're probably all on the same page. If it seems like the right wing is a little bit more quiet at this point, it's because you're basically boxing us into specifically defending slurs and shitty behavior. It's kind of hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I think blah, 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 you should be able to say whatever you want. Like, yeah, maybe, but you should suffer consequences too. So it's a little hard to defend this one.
but my problem, Connor, is that I can't let go of that take. That take was so weird. So
What?
we can acknowledge that there should be certain types of repercussions, but you got a person right next to you that doesn't believe that hate speech exists. So what are we supposed to do with an individual who doesn't believe that hate speech exists?
Tell him that in the private lobby, if he wants to jump on Discord, him and his friends can throw around whatever slurs and epithets and immutable characteristic insults that they want, including banging people's moms. And then if they're in a public lobby, here's 10 words that you can't say because they offend certain classes of people. So regardless of whether or not you have some fucking right-wing Dave Rubin fucking take on free speech and hate speech, it doesn't really matter, because if you use these 10 words, and let's use Halo Infinity coming out, if you use these in a Halo Infinity public lobby, you're getting fucking suspended. And if you do it 3 times, you get fucking banned. And that's just a TOS thing that the professional studios are going to have to do in order to protect their communities.
Is that something you agree with, Sparky?
Look, if those are the rules, those are the rules. I just don't believe that hate speech exists. I don't use specific words because there's historical context, and well, personally, I'm just not that much of an asshole. But
then you acknowledge that certain words have a history.
Yes,
but then
but
how
I
can you
don't
say
think
that
hate
but
speech
also
is a thing.
simultaneously say
Well,
that
This
hate
is a
speech
different
exists?
subject.
There's a difference between hate speech as like, are those words hateful, and should maybe people have a different view of you if you use them, versus should you go to prison over it, right? That's the difference. So let's say, you're caught. They got, it's apparent, there's evidence that you've uttered slurs and everything, and people know who you are, and the anonymity is removed. Well, it's not about asking should you go to prison, because in some countries you could very well. I
Did
believe in
anybody say
Germany you
anything
could.
about anybody going to prison for calling me an N-word?
no,
When we're
Just
talking about
people want
hate
you to-
speech, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
So-
Hate speech exists. The question is, what do you do about it? Hate
Okay.
speech
Well,
exists.
Let's
hold on.
wait.
Do I go to prison for
Believe in
calling?
God
Okay,
or hate
everybody. Okay. I want to make sure that we get to people on the list. It's going to be Demon Mama, then Cat. Then we're going to hope for the rest of this conversation we can refrain from having to raise our hand and just keep it open. So, Demon Mama, then Cat.
Yeah. So there's a couple of issues. First of all, is that there has been an ongoing, I'm talking years upon years upon years of complaints, both from professionals in the industry and enthusiasts outside of the industry, about the issues with moderation. Not only is text chat like under moderated, forums are super under moderated. Voice chat is obviously totally messed up. Now, it's funny because these gaming companies created a way to capture the gameplay into a convenient file that you can download. And they've developed all that technology, but they've never figured out a way to maybe, I don't know, have it so that if like 3 reports are made about a player, then it will save a compressed copy of the voice file from that in-game session. I don't know. It feels to me like there's probably solutions there, but as we've seen, and this has been a problem even here on Twitch, by the way, notice how much genuine controversy has come up over moderation on Twitch. Most of us here know how hard it is to moderate on Twitch. It's very difficult. This is the same. Twitch is a gaming website primarily. Obviously, we're doing politics on it, so that's a thing. There just hasn't been the willingness to engage in developing solutions to this. And I point to what I was saying before, which is that from the top, a lot of these companies all the way down just don't care. The people who are in the positions to make the decisions don't want that to happen because that makes it worse for them. They don't get to keep victimizing people. And there was something I wanted to respond to Aircraft Sparky earlier by saying, oh, well, if it happens in the workplace, well, that's the position of HR and whatever. HR has been routinely involved in this. In fact, what happened yesterday after the Bill Cosby suite Activision Blizzard photos came out, it was discovered that one of the HR people was one of the people who hung out in the Cosby suite. So it goes beyond being an HR problem. This is like nearly every division of every single one of these companies has had not just controversy, has had victimization after victimization after victimization. They are structurally installed in a lot of these companies. There are literal pipelines of people who cover for other people. With just again, if we're just going to talk about the Activision Blizzard one, which is the one in everyone's minds, well, the Alex Afrasiabi had numerous severe sexual harassment complaints about him. It has been documented, and also there's I think there's video that exists out there, we're going to find out for sure, of male employees pulling Afrasiabi off of women employees because he was that pushy and that forceful. And yet when it came to the table of the president, J. Allen Brack, he gave him verbal counseling, and then he kept working there for years. This is what would happen. Every time a complaint came in, he would get verbal counseling, and then he would continue being there until eventually they caught wind of this upcoming lawsuit, and then they finally got rid of him very quietly, didn't even announce it. So I think that there's I really want to encourage people on this panel to not downplay these issues. And I do think that they bleed into the culture. I think the reason why we haven't seen action on voice chats and text chats improving, and there's so much hate speech in there, is because the people who are in charge just don't prioritize that. They don't care. They don't want to put the money into investing the tools that would protect the people of their community that need to. And to just do one final thing, to touch on all the issues that were discussed, to discuss the issue of the free speech issue. This is ridiculous. If you believe that somebody can be thrown out of a basketball game because of saying the N-word, then it should be even easier decision to decide to ban someone or suspend someone's account because of using this language. We just have to figure out how to monitor.
Yeah, but Demon Mama, you can also recognize, though, because I do agree with you, that there is the question of what is considered public conversation. I think video games are slowly but progressively dealing with that question in different spaces, right? Like nothing stopping me from uploading a clip of my audio one for one as I hear it in a broadcast, but certain sites, like really within the sharing of the algorithm itself or the sharing of the content, they'll be like, because of privacy concerns, party chat or public chat is muted for this. So even though you'll have somebody just like screaming expletives, even if you try to like PS share that, so like this person's saying the N-word, all this crazy other stuff, and this has to stop, it doesn't necessarily get caught. However, when we do things like obviously,
like that's an internal decision. There's nothing necessarily legal as long as they, at least as far as I understand it, unless there's some sort of antiquated recording law. But as far as I understand it, it's just that they haven't, because they don't want to have the responsibility of having to moderate the voice channels. They just put a disclaimer that says, yeah, what you hear in voice, we don't care. It's none of our business. So voice is just messy.
Sure, but I would imagine that there has to be some. Again, I don't know, but I know there's different types. I mean, we did the whole Destiny arc of him recording chats, right? So we understand that there's like certain privacy exceptions in different things in terms of a Discord call. So we do acknowledge like there's something that exists, but something within games, there's like a piece either that developer. Again, I'm giving them a lot of charitability here. Like
Yeah,
there's a piece that maybe they're not willing to approach to take the risk, where I would argue take the risk and fight it in court, especially because then I think they have the money to do
But
that.
I think also that they could, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I do feel like it would be possible for games companies to just say, hey, like, I mean, this happens when you get a call from a company, like this call may be recorded for customer service and training purposes. Just put that in all of your end user licensing agreements. People should treat the in-game voice. In-game voice is not a private phone call. You shouting in a studio in a stadium that is being recorded and going on local television isn't the same as being in a phone call. Obviously, I tend to agree with like, obviously if you're on a private call with your Discord people, sure, but in-game voice shouldn't be considered some sort of private space, because it isn't. People get slotted in. Sometimes they don't even have a choice in it because the matchmaking just puts you in a match with people. I've been put in matches with people that I've used the tools that they give you to avoid players, and you get put back in. I've blocked people and they still get put back in with you. It's just like, I don't know. What I see is that this has been an issue for since the inception of online gaming, and gaming companies drag their feet like crazy unless people go really hard on them and demand it as a feature.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. 1 moment. I wanted to make sure Kat got time to speak, because Kat's the only person from the list who I think hasn't gotten time to speak yet.
Cool. I have a couple of things. First one, aircraft in the future, it might be in your best interest to not use the word. I don't really use the N word. Just, yeah. Try that out sometime. Try using I don't use it. Cool. Okay. So then another thing is we were talking about so if you don't like it, don't be on there. So there's technology out on like some of the most fucking basic things that we use that are able to transcribe our words. If we're able to have technology out there that can transcribe our words for like Discord, then the same thing could be done for all of these different games. The reason why it hasn't been done is because no one actually gives a fuck. Discord makes sure that people aren't having Nazi servers, but they don't make sure that they don't have servers where people are being sexually harassed. Why?
Wait. I just watched hours of Politically Provoked. I don't necessarily think that's the case anymore. I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, my TV does have MSNBC burned into it, so maybe there's something there. But
okay.
I think, would you extend that though, like the same type of restrictions for Discord though, that like public Discords should also be recorded in types of way for punishable behavior?
Well, there are like servers out there. There are servers out there that are like community, not like me and the boys server, but like there's servers that have like thousands of people. For example, there's like the Discord study server, and like just random people can join it. I think those should have those type of software put in so that like if I decide to study with somebody and someone's like, I don't want to study with blacks, they shouldn't be able to use the server
the Doobie
anymore.
Rule. I agree.
Yeah, or like if there's like a server like run by like a company for the game Destiny, there should be things in there to stop people being like, I don't get out, you fucking da. And there's no like thick skin. Like I don't what? There's like sure, there is thick skin. If Dylan calls me up and says, "Hey friend, I just want to let you know that your content's not that good and maybe you should work on it," then I'd be like, that kind of hurt my feeling, but I can have thick skin, but there's not really like I should really just
Glad
try
you realized
gelling.
that, by the way. I'm kidding.
I will poison your food. And then there's also the like, hey, person that I'm playing a game with, you fucking what do you call it? Roasty, femoid piece of shit, N-word, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's not really like something I should ever learn to get better with. Like it's not really like get thick skin. It's also not like, have you tried turning off, voice chat? Because if I'm playing like a team game, I kind of need to hear what's happening if I want to cover you properly. So like, no, it's not like just don't play multiplayer. No, I paid $75 fucking dollars, and I'm gonna get every goddamn cent out of it. And like, that's my right to not waste my money, and that's everyone's right to not waste their money.
Please, for the love of God, may I please go?
I said I was ditching the hand raising, like just
Okay.
the
I'm
rest of
I'm
this.
gonna go. I'm gonna go because the reason why I'm gonna go is because holy fuck is the path to hell paved with good intentions. And what I just heard in the past 3 minutes was, hey, should every conversation from every video game be auto-transcribed and reported to the fucking business? Should every conversation on Discord be auto-transcribed and monitored by Discord? No! The answer is no! What the fuck? Oh my God, like you could reconstitute, like you're the best fucking pawns of the secret police are in this fucking room right now. Holy shit.
Secret police?
Yes, holy shit.
Wait,
Okay.
secret police. Well, your social media is already being monitored, though.
Yeah, no shit. So I don't want to make it worse. God damn. Okay, so basically here's the fucking problem. No. You guys gave me a
This
brain
is
aneurysm from
hysterical.
this is mine. This is mine. No, it's not hysterical. And the reason why it's not hysterical is because there was an Israeli-based company that literally just got caught selling fucking spyware to international companies and fucking literally drug cartels who assassinated fucking journalists worldwide. You want to give private corporations the ability to fucking monitor voice chats, auto-transcribe the fucking conversations, and then sell that to other people? Are you fucking insane? Like you're basically like, hey, let's create blackmail, give it to private corporations, and then see whether or not they sell it.
Well, what secrets am I supposed to be giving in like a study Discord? Like in these
just don't do anything wrong. That's the approach.
But like these are,
you have
I'm not
nothing to
saying
hide, so don't do anything.
Wait,
wrong.
okay. No,
insane.
stop. Okay. When I said we gotta drop the hand raising, I didn't say drop any ounce of like order possible. Kat, could you say what you were saying? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah,
please.
so I'm not saying that they should transcribe like me talking to the boys in my 5-person Discord server, but I'm saying in like community servers when there's thousands of people, what fucking military secrets are you supposed to be, or like secrets of any sort are you giving inside of your Discord? Like if I'm inside of my study group and people, what was I saying to anybody in my study group Discord of like the 1,000 people one that's like public, like that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like you and your friends. I'm talking about like the Destiny official Discord server or the Minecraft official Discord server. Am I really out there giving my passwords?
I love the if you have nothing
Discord.
to hide. Yeah, I love if you have nothing to hide, then don't worry about it mentality.
It's absolutely non-analogous.
It's
national security
absolutely
because
fucking
someone's
analogous.
calling me slurs on a server. Like I highly
Holy
doubt that
shit.
has anything
I
to
feel
do
like
with
this is
national
the Wild
security.
West, and reports aren't done.
Okay.
Hold the fuck up.
Okay.
You guys
I am in that. Nope. Guys, I just want to remind everybody that fighting at the end of the day is pointless because koala bears exist and they're kind of cute. Anyway, just to give that a moment for you all to calm down, okay? And giraffes exist. They're cool too. Giraffes are pretty cool. Anyway. Raise your hand if you want to talk. Okay. I want to throw it to Demon Mama.
Thank you. So
An agent.
there are a couple of things that I think are I feel like this is getting maybe a little bit out of step with what's actually being proposed. So first of all, with regard to video games, somebody's groaning very loudly, but
Sorry.
But yeah, with regard to video games, like first of all of your text communications in video games are already saved, especially in games like League of Legends, where videos of your gameplay and your in-game text chat are already saved and kept on servers. So this is a rampant problem all over the place. I think that you have the least to worry about your in-game public voice chats being data harvested when literally your personal information is plugged into every single game that you play. often literally given to them by the store that you play through. So you buy a multiplayer game on Steam and your info ends up being given to them via a bunch of contracts that you didn't even know that you signed. So this is just like you're not engaging with the question. The problem that we have with something like the Patriot Act is because it allows for the monitoring of private calls that you can't even oversee and the maintenance of that. I think that we could use something like a GDPR for the US that would handle how long companies can hold data. But we're not talking about like mass recording or anything like that. I'm saying there's perhaps an application for, hey, if a game's voice chat gets four reports that somebody is saying that they want to like kill somebody else and they're freaking out and screaming in the voice chat, then that would prompt the server to automatically create a temporary customer service copy that they can listen to. That's all that we're talking about here. I really don't think that this is like a matter of public security. We're talking about a company within their own product on their own website in the voice chats that they already maintain. Obviously, I believe that private phone calls should be encrypted and kept safe and private. But a video game lobby is by definition not a private space. And there's all kinds of things that allow you to be recorded in public already. So I feel like you're kind of flying off the handle at Katarana. And it's not really, you're not actually engaging with what the situation that she's proposed is. Yeah,
Since
that's my
Connor,
main.
Can I direct respond?
I will let you respond, but then we got to throw it to Agent because Agent hasn't talked in a while.
Okay. So the system that Demon Mama has just proposed is perfect. Okay. It's the equivalent of having a fly swatter to take out flies and mosquitoes versus a fuel air bomb. I don't want auto transcription, but I think that especially when it comes to voice, 4 reports, three reports even. Hey, this person is using the N-word. Well, after the 3rd report, it records, basically the next hour of that person's interaction. If they're found to be using slurs, then they get a suspension or a ban. I think that's fucking genius. I think it's perfect. We agree. Now, here's the more important part. Koala bears suck. All right. They evolved to eat a single plant that makes them lethargic during the day.
So we're gonna throw it over to Agent.
So yeah, I'm gonna fight back against this idea that chat and moderation hasn't been getting better whatsoever. This isn't the horror stories of 08 that Demon Mama mentioned or 2012, like someone else mentioned. Like 08 was a pretty long time ago. I was like 7. I'm pretty old now compared to that. It's not way better. You can say shit on League of Legends that you can't. Like you could say shit 2 years ago and not get banned. That like even today you'd be gone. Even in text chat in League of Legends, which is insanely toxic. It is getting better. Now, moderation on voice chats, like the way you posed it, with a lot of caveats and like they can't hold the data, it's only after reporting, that's fine by me. I just don't like this whole idea of the mass recording, especially voice chats and like even logistically how that'd work. Like, is it my mic on at all times? Do I have to opt in? Is it only when I speak on a push to talk? Is it on always? It really is a slippery slope there. I would agree with the way you posed it. I do like it. I'm just going to push back on games haven't gotten better because they have. Even these super large corporations, even in games like Overwatch, which is owned by Blizzard Activision, which are full of scumbags, has gotten better. So I do have hope there.
I would say,
I mean, the thing is, like,
to agree with you.
Oh, okay.
I was like, to agree with you a little bit, Agent, and maybe this is something that Connor too that you can respond to, is that I think there has to be, how do I say this in the nicest way possible? I don't trust humans with anything. So one of the things that I think these companies need to do is get professionals in here who understand how the language looks, how the language sounds, and how the language evolves over time. Like, we see this a lot. Brittany, I'm sorry, Brittany. You're still the best. You're still one of the top 3 mods on Twitch, but I'm going to drag you a little bit. So have fun. Maybe Todd will defend you, whatever the fuck his name is. So I think that sometimes people will use their bias to justify not understanding the language that people use. As an example, maybe a groiper won't overtly say something incredibly sexist or transphobic, but they'll maybe skirt the line just enough where the layman person will be like, well, that's not really what they're saying. When in reality, if you put a professional in that space, they'll go, that's exactly what they're saying. They're saying this. There's no trying to hide this because I study this language and what this language looks like. Because I do think in the chat situations, you can have certain banned words and banned terms, but the problem is people do, as we learned with our good old boy Charmhole, that they skirt the terms in such a way where you have to have a little bit more of a brain to understand what's being implied there. So like, oh, I'm not saying the N word. I'm just saying try hard. Like, oh, this pesky try hard. And it's like, we know what you're doing here. And then it's like, and then they'll do that. Well, that's not what I'm saying. You're just inferring that. And so my point here is that I think these companies at the very least need to get people in these spaces to understand what this language looks like in a 2021 landscape, because you can't just for instance just make a bunch of banned terms for the N-word and all the adjacents of that, or like different variations and different spellings. Sometimes you have to use certain words, unfortunately, that on its face you'd be like, oh, this is totally harmless, but in reality it is used to perpetuate hate, sexism, and stuff like that. And to be honest, like, I don't trust these companies to make a good use of the term that they should ban or restrict.
You know what? We should never ban any words ever, because someone's just going to find a way to get around it. So you know what? Fuck
The Doobie Rule, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just don't really feel like that's a really great argument. Like, oh, someone will Charmhole will get around it. Well, I'd rather Charmhole get around
Wait, you don't agree that
First
we
you're
need?
gonna ban.
Wait, Kat, you
First you're
don't
gonna ban
agree that?
slurs,
Are you memeing
and
right
now
now?
what's next? The pronouns.
First
Like,
they came for the R slur, and I didn't.
I know you're not. I know you're not. Kat, I know you can't be memeing here because, like, we understand that the professionals need to be certain professionals outside of different fields need to be in these spaces to help educate these groups about things like sexism and racism and stuff like that. So I don't think you believe that, but
No, I just think that, like, I'd rather there be like, okay, every once in a while a charm hole gets through, rather than having like the entire like dork squad and Nick Fuentes in my fucking chat. You feel like?
Listen, don't
wait,
drop
wait.
the G slur like
So
that.
again, because you dodged it, so let's try again. Do you agree that you need certain professionals outside of your field to understand things like racism and sexism?
I'm not entirely like. What do you mean?
Okay, let's say Dylan is a professional on microaggressions.
Okay.
And then he comes into the space to educate the staff about how microaggressions manifest themselves in language, how to spot it in chat for moderation. Is that something that you would support? Would you support a professional like Dylan to educate the employee base of Blizzard about something like that?
No, I
Okay.
wouldn't have a problem.
Okay.
with that.
Oh, by the way, my training platform for how not to do that would just be all of Redneck's tweets with the cover saying "Don't do this." That would basically be it.
I see that you're in a lover's quarrel. I'll let you get back to it.
I mean, Dylan's trying to get on that troll page. I mean, that's the badge of honor.
No, I was the first one.
I tried to
You
buy
were?
it. It didn't
Yeah,
work out.
Oh, wow,
he is.
pioneer.
I'm actually the only NFT he has sold that somebody's made a bid on.
Stomp.
Man.
Who bid on that? Show yourself in chat.
Dylan, trying to tell us something here? Did you buy your own?
I did
Coin?
not buy my own NFT. I don't even know what I would buy it with. Would it be Bitcoin? I don't know.
Okay.
He uses an offshoot of Ethereum.
Okay. Good to know.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so basically on the point about corporations and whatnot, I think it is important here on the issue of toxicity, of course, to distinguish between at the corporate level game creation and the workplace culture that's there. And obviously we've seen Dima Mama brought to light earlier in the stream some egregious examples of poor behavior at the corporate level versus the toxicity in the actual gamer space from the player base. And I think that there's more or less two different routes to go about making it better at the corporate level and then at the player base level. I think that at the corporate level, at the end of the day, it's going to take lawsuits. It's going to take these coming to light to really basically bring down a bunch of backwater holdovers of a bygone and pretty bad era. And it doesn't necessarily mean you just destroy gamer culture and rebuild it. It's going to be a transitional phase, but that you have to weed out some really toxic corporate culture. And if it means that they go bankrupt, then good. Then you get some new companies, new ingenuity in there, where they aren't an absolute shit show when it comes to promoting brave culture and that kind of thing. At the player base level, I do think that removing anonymity, though, will go a long way towards making people at least worry that if they were going to behave in a very racist or misogynist direction, that maybe there might be a slight chance that they're held accountable. I think that will go a long way towards basically creating a more wholesome and proper culture where you can shit talk and everything, but if you're gonna go and use the types of stuff that Nick Fuentes talks about, Nazbol Nick, the nose picker in chief, you want to go with the stuff that he talks about, then yeah, maybe your name does come out. Who knows? But I do think at the end of the day, anonymity, you don't even necessarily have to get rid of that in its entirety, but that you need to have a culture in which people definitely feel that, well, I'm not 100% anonymous online. There's still a chance that my words could come back to bite me if I'm going to be a racist prick or whatnot. And to say, oh, well, I don't believe in hate speech and this sort of thing. No, hate speech exists. The question is, do you believe that it should be criminal or not? I think we can all agree you don't have a right to say the N-word in a Call of Duty lobby. And if COD gets serious about making it so that you'll face repercussions if you do, well, as a company, I'd advise that they'd be better off to do that, because then they'll have a bigger customer base of people that feel comfortable to participate in their games. So that's my view on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
wait,
quick.
wait. We have to wrap this up, or we're gonna have to skip the last topic. So we have to.
Can I
wrap it up.
respond here and make it my closing?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Chat, I just want to say that the Kevin you see is not the Kevin that is representative of the actual spice that exists here. You might think that Kevin is a dirty lefty, but deep down there's some wings in there, and I hope for one panel you get to see them fly, because they're incredible. That's all.
Oh, I'm a hawk. They're hawk wings. They're hawk wings, man. It's Space Chad Hawk, and he wants to liberate North Korea and Iran and Afghanistan.
See?
And Syria
I'm telling you, chat.
and Belarus.
Hashtag bring Kevin back every week, okay? Let's make it happen.
No, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
let's
throw
make it
it.
happen. Let's flip and
Hashtag
go. Let's
Okay.
flip and
Make
go.
Kevin fly.
We're gonna throw it over to Agent 10 to wrap it up with his ending statement.
Yeah, so fuck Activision, Blizzard, right? We all agree on that. We did have a lot of agreement on this subject, thankfully. I just don't think that gaming culture in itself is fucked. I don't think we need to burn it down and rebuild it. I'm not that black-pilled yet. I don't think anyone should be that black-pilled yet. We've gone huge improvements in the industry and on the gaming level in itself. Moderation has gotten better on all games, especially AAA studio games. Even a toxic cesspool as League of Legends have been fixed up. Now, recording voice chats, I'm very iffy. I'm going to need to see a really good plan on it, or I'm not going to agree with it. But for the most part, text chats are getting cleaned up all across different games in general. Companies are getting better at this. And on a corporate level, with all this little scandal going on, clean house, fill the house back up with people who aren't scumbags. That's my take on it.
Okay. Next, we're gonna throw it over to Aircraft.
Yeah, corporate side. Hopefully, all these nice little civil actions will clean up the industry side when it comes to voice chat and text chat and everything. If the companies want to moderate it, I mean, that's going to be their choice. This isn't a free speech thing, but I don't believe there's things such as hate speech. Just my opinion. It's okay. Katarina said I shouldn't say, well, I don't always use this word. Well, I mean, I do listen to rap, and you can't sing Gold Digger without saying certain words. Just saying. But it's the dumbest thing ever. When it comes down to it, man, you got to realize that the people are going to be assholes, and a little apathy can go a long way when it comes to how people talk about you. Don't take yourself so serious, and maybe your life will get better. If everything's personal, then man, you're going to be miserable, and people will laugh at that. I'm just saying.
Gonna throw it over to CounterPoints.
All right. So there's this YouTube channel called Hood Nature. It's one of my favorite channels on YouTube. And they discuss why the koala is an evolutionary mistake and a piece of shit. Yield.
Connor has yielded his intro for the next topic. Gonna throw it over to Demon Mama.
Yeah. I'm glad that most people here were able to largely agree on the core. The industry is destroying a lot of people that I care about. I fucking love video games, and sometimes you realize that a controlled burn is incredibly important to save what you love, lest the entire plague consume the entire industry forever. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much of a chance. I think we live in a time where corporations can essentially get away with anything they want, and the people in the highest positions of power, people like Bobby Kotick, one of the richest people in the world, who is also notably in Epstein's flight logs, are going to continue doing this. And the reason why I say that I will say things like we need to burn it down, which is echoed by people like James Stephanie Sterling, is because they are never going to act out of their own interest. Bobby Kotick is one of the people who has offended this and who has offended on these levels and has also enabled this. And he's the top of the company. These are the highest positions, the people with the most say. And if that means we have to lose companies like Blizzard, Activision, Ubisoft, I'm actually surprised that I agree with Kevin so much here, because I do think that actually it will create a lot of fertile ground for a new style, a new world of gaming that is just so much better than what we have. Because I can tell you right now, it's not very good for a lot of us. It's pretty bad for a lot of us. Now, maybe some people have a good time with whatever games that they want, but the reality is that most of the gaming world is a world of blistering crunch, of horrible treatment, of sexual assault, and of gambling mechanics made to literally manipulate children. The gaming industry is in a very bad spot right now, and I think that we need to take it seriously. Games are really important. I think they're really valuable, and I think we should take it really seriously.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, again, listen, hashtag let Kevin fly, okay? I hope that happens.
Yeah, let's make it trend. Make it trend.
I yield.
Okay. Katarana?
Hey, Aircraft Sparky, can you sing Gold Digger for me? Just kidding. Please never don't. Just, you know what? Get that song in your Spotify. Delete it. Okay, there's yeah.
Got it.
Brother.
We're throwing it over to Maddie.
So the reason that the industry matters, or the reason why the same sort of like sexism, homophobia, racism that happens at the company level, it absolutely influences gamer culture, because those are the people creating the games. Those are the people determining whether or not certain behavior is acceptable or not in the games. So I think absolutely, if we want to address toxic gamer culture, it starts by addressing the toxic behavior that has been allowed to run rampant within that industry. And Activision Blizzard is simply one egregious example of that. And just, you can sing songs without saying the N-word. It's real easy. And I will not tolerate this koala slander anymore. They are cute. There's value in being cute. How the hell do you think I got to where I am? I yield my time.
Throwing it over to Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Want to start off by saying, yeah, no, I agree. I think koalas are cute. They're also based. Let's just be real about that. I like koalas. Koalas are awesome. Let's get into the closing remarks here. So, is it all toxic in the player base and whatnot? No, it varies by game, at least in my experience. And I'll say straight up, I'm a straight white dude, so my experience is obviously going to be filtered and biased. And I think that Dima Mama and others on the panel who have discussed this, their points, obviously, you should take that and say, well, they've had a different experience there. And their experience is also worth noting here in terms of discussing the toxicity that's there. And I think that, as I've said, we're going to have to go about this not necessarily through some huge government mandate where it's like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, I think lawsuits are going to be a great way to bring down a ton of dinosaurs, a ton of trash bin rape culture dinosaurs at the corporate level. And I think at the player base level, inculcating a culture where you're not anonymous, where you're not necessarily anonymous, that can go worlds. But additionally, just as time goes on, and again, this is from my own personal experience, I've seen people become less toxic in games and stuff than versus when I played games in 2010. But again, that's my own personal anecdote there. I want to close just by saying, though, that I think on the point about recording and the point about enabling companies to do a better job of moderation through the use of tech and through the use of data storage, we need to understand that, well, look, data storage is already a thing. If you use Facebook, you use Twitter, you use Instagram, you use any of these various social media platforms, your data is being held at the proprietary level where these companies can choose to use that to even sell to advertisers, for example. That was something that came out with Facebook. That it is something where I think that at the end of the day, taking more measures to enable moderators to have more information at the reporting level to make a determination on, say, somebody's status, if they should be banned or not. And I think that that's going to create a better culture in the long run because, again, it increases accountability. And I will say this just to wrap up. I think it does kind of highlight a little bit of a double standard, though, where some of us here are willing to say, yes, that's good, or that's something that we can get behind. But then on the Patriot Act, oh, no, that's bad. We can't use that to fight terrorism. I'm a supporter of the Patriot Act, and I'll say this. I'll debate anybody who's an opponent. I do debate nights all the time. You're welcome to debate me at Kevin Castley on Twitter. Shoot me a DM, and we'll work something out. So thank you.
No longer $200 per debate. I'm happy the debate price has fallen. Okay. We're now going
It's free. It's free.
Now it's free. Wonderful. You have to buy one Dylan Burns NFT. We're going to go into the last topic of the night, which is... Holy shit, did I forget it? I'm blanking right now.
Pornography.
Yes. Yes. Kevin was very excited for this one, obviously. We have a lot of pornography experts here, so thankfully we're going to have some expertise on this topic. A lot of pornography experts here, a lot of connoisseurs. So, pornography, is it harmful? Is it something that is fine to be consumed? Is the industry as a whole harmful? And should anything be done about it? The issue of pornography. It's a pretty broad topic, and you're free to take it anywhere you want to. We're going to start in the top left-hand corner with Agent 10.
So, is it harmful? Yeah. Mentally, yeah, it's pretty addictive. Doesn't mean it should be banned or anything like that. No, I think cigarettes should not be banned either. They're fucking harmful. As someone who indulges, I enjoy the art, right? I think we should limit it, obviously, to younger audiences. Keep like laws for like advertising certain content as it is now. I don't think that's harmful. If we're gonna steer this in more of is it harmful and like the workers are affected, hell yeah, have porn stars be unioned, because I've heard some horror stories there. But overall, do we think porn is harmful? I mean, technically yes, but I think so far the regulations as we have it now and what we can do is in a good spot.
Okay, next is going to be Aircraft Sparky.
Yes, porn can be harmful to both those who consume it and those who act in it. There's several stories that came down from reformed porn actresses and actors talking about what bad that happens in the porn community. However, I don't think that it should be banned at all. People should be free to choose whatever they consume. The only place that it should be limited is, of course, who can consume it. Unlike Flora Gill, who said someone needs to create porn for children, and then she went on her little ridiculous thing, and that was a little too spicy. Porn for children, no. Porn with children, no. There should be stopgaps to end the free consuming of porn. I think places like Pornhub should have certain type of verification to verify your age, possibly to pay, because think of all the work of all these hardworking sex workers that are losing that sweet, sweet Skrilla by all those free clicks. So look, if you want to support actual sex workers, we need to push for monetization of porn. We need a paywall on all porn sites. And look, too simple. It is harmful. It can be addictive, but no, it shouldn't go anywhere.
Next, we're going to throw it over to Connor.
Oh, shit. Yeah, so I think yes, I agree with Agent 10 100%. I think it is harmful. I think it's probably like drinking alcohol, smoking tobacco. It's something that can be done in moderation, but if you do it too intensely, then obviously you can fuck your shit up. When it comes to actually regulating the industry itself, I know that there's already like pretty strict health regulations. I think that since we talked about the brain being a vital organ, maybe we should talk about mental health in the porn industry and just make sure that consenting adults are truly consenting adults. Make sure that they're making the right decisions at the right time. We can discuss how that makes sense or what makes sense while respecting the rule of the the autonomy of the individual. But also, I have a communitarian stance on this, which is basically like, what should be the age of actors? Can we do a utilitarian study for the society to, basically come up with a rule for what that age should be? That's what the age should be. So basically, I'll leave it there.
Okay. Next is going to be Demon Mama.
Okay, so is porn harmful? I think that's a very silly question. No, obviously it is not wholly harmful. Can there be situations where porn can be harmful to people? Obviously, but that is true about literally everything in the entire world. Porn is a enormous industry. Porn is an like, I don't know, it's so broad. I can't believe that people are coming out here saying like porn is harmful. Like that's ridiculous to me. Porn does a lot of good things, and of course that's not to say that like the porn industry is good. I mean, most of the porn industry is tube sites that steal shit from other people, and that is really fucked. I don't think that you solve that by paywalling anything, because the paywalls just end up going into the pockets of the corporation. In fact, I think the best way to do that is to support sex workers and porn stars directly. In fact, if you want to free them, that's probably the best way to do it. Cool thing. On Twitter, a lot of porn performers, amateur and otherwise, give you ways to support them directly. You should do it. Send them some money on their PayPal. Send them some money on their ManyVids or whatever other websites that they have. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but oh yeah, it's that one. I can't say the other one. So yeah, no, porn is not harmful. I think that's really ridiculous to make that claim. I think there are circumstances in which it can be harmful. Obviously, people can become addicted to all kinds of things. Let's talk about League of Legends if we want to talk about things that can addict you. But yeah, obviously people can get addicted to it, but that's like, it's not the idea that like porn is like uniquely harmful or bad is very silly. And also I know that probably this is going to come up at some point, which is like body issues and unhealthy ways. I don't think that that's unique to porn. In fact, we see this reflected in all of our media. Our approach towards the body is not just a porn thing. That is very much a societal issue that's larger, and porn as a part of our society inherits those issues. Should it be addressed? Absolutely, but that doesn't make it porn's fault. So yeah.
Also, D-Mama, just to be clear, I said no slurs, so please do not say League of Legends again on this platform.
You got it. I won't. I think that's everything.
Wonderful. Now it's going to be Joe Lewis.
Yeah, as a lovely patron of Amy Anderson, Pinky, and Sarah J, I'm very versed in helping actresses directly and supporting them. With that being said, I have some just general thoughts about this conversation, so I'm just going to kind of spitfire it, and then let's see where we go with it. I think that reducing or trying to get rid of altogether sexual exploitation in porn should not be at the expense of sex workers. We can extrapolate that as much as we want in the open. Additionally, I think sex work is part of the gig economy, and it should be respected as such. Teaching young people about sex is too important to get wrong. So if we elaborate on this a bit, right? Sexual education can counter what kids learn from porn, but there seems to be this sort of problem where teachers are apprehensive of approaching this topic head on. And they'll sort of categorize it in terms of risky topics, which is kind of like brushed upon a little bit earlier in the conversation about like teaching, like having pornography that is safe for children. And when you hear that statement, it's very easy to get very social justice warrior and think like, oh, you're going to show kids porn. And that's not the argument that educators are making. Further, like if we understand that pornography can lead to potential harm, then we must make sure that sexual education and sexuality education is taught in schools, and it should be a priority within school curriculum to get it right. So those are kind of the general thoughts I have. So I guess let's party, I guess.
Wonderful. Now I'm gonna throw it over to Kat.
Yeah, so I don't think pornography is harmful. I don't think that because data doesn't think that, and I do them facts and not them feelings. You feel? Call me Ben Shapiro with black. But beyond that, I think porn is also helpful in general for some people like with different types of just different types of neurodivergencies. For example, I myself don't would have never naturally known how to do anything because I don't know how to naturally do anything. It was only because people telling me, hey, you're 16 and you haven't done this yet, you should probably do this. And then I'm like, how do I learn about it? And they're like, you can go on these really cool websites. And I'm like, wow, okay. Because otherwise, some of us just don't naturally have certain types of sexual discovery, so thus porn is necessary. So I mean, obviously there are harmful types of porn, but then there's nice types of porn, such as the stuff made for women, where it's like, hey, a consenting adult, would you like to consensually come here and kiss me on the face? Oh wait, this is so cute. Okay, yeah, there's that type of stuff. And it's not always just slam bam, thank you, man. Oh my god, I dropped a pen on the floor. Can you help me? Sometimes there's other stuff. So yeah, there's harmful stuff and then there's good stuff, just like everything, and everything is morally neutral, and it's people that make it fucky. So I think it's cool. And if you don't like it, you're just conservative. Bye.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Maddie.
Thanks, Ben Shapiro. So, that fucking killed me. So, yeah, porn's great. There's all different types of porn. There's porn for all the different things that you like, but it's only good when it's being done, obviously, by consenting adults and people who aren't being exploited. This is why I am a big supporter of unionization efforts by sex workers. So unionizing in order to protect their interests, in order to prevent exploitation. And when it comes to porn addiction, I actually have a very close friend who struggled with porn addiction. But in that case, it wasn't because of the porn. It was because this person is an addict. They've been addicted to other things, and porn just happened to fill that space of a compulsive behavior and subsequent shame spiral. And I think blaming porn in those instances maybe isn't the correct approach. And by just simply severely limiting porn, hi Hans, I don't know that would do much to help people who struggle with that addiction. So I'm all in favor of making sure that porn isn't viewed by minors. Minors aren't being involved with it, preventing exploitation. I think a great way to prevent that kind of exploitation is by encouraging sex workers to unionize.
I will say Hans is a great example of porn addiction, but in the other way, as in he can't stop posting on Twitter. Okay, we get it. You can do a push-up. Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So I got a few things to say. So basically, I think one of the important questions to kind of ask to start off this sort of discussion, and it oftentimes is lacking. I mean, I did sociology courses in university, and it would even be lacking from that sort of discussion is, what do we mean by porn? What type of porn? I think that's an important consideration to look at here. So obviously you have softcore porn, you have OnlyFans, you've got hardcore, you've got rape fantasy type porn, you've got various different categories of it. And so a lot of discussions around porn, for example, will debate over the extent to which it's exploitative of women. And and that's something that's a valid discussion to have. But then you've got categories of porn where men are exploited or men are objectified. So it varies across categories. As far as the pushback against conservatives who oppose porn, I've had to deal with this a fair bit recently, and I'm not sure what was sort of the spark in the culture why all of a sudden we've got conservatives again, basically going back to like, Irving Kristol arguments for the 70s talking about banning pornography, like as if we're going to ban pornography in the 2020s. How much of a troglodyte would you have to be to do that? But then we can look at comparisons in crime rates, and we know that there are a lot of factors that go into reduction in crime rates, a lot of them. But I would posit to reason that one of the explanatory factors in crime going down, and especially, and there are a couple studies that I've looked through that have said, well, there might be, and again, it's correlative studies, but there might be a decrease in sexual crimes as a result of increased access to pornography, though that's something where the jury's still out on it. But we do know that crime roughly is down about 50% since the advent of the internet. As far as is it toxic? Well, some of it is and some of it isn't, and it depends on what we classify as toxic. But again, it's similar in that sense. It's almost analogous to the conversation that we had about gamer toxicity, where it really depends. It varies by category of game, it varies by specific outlet, it varies by corporation, etc. Some porn studios can be incredibly toxic, and others not so much. And of course, you have independent actors there as well. And additionally, I think an interesting concept to bring up here, just before we get into the general discussion, is that in contrast to a lot of the people that would sort of cast the aspersion that, well, it's necessarily disempowering, a lot of pornography can actually be empowering. I mean, it's the sort of thing that can it be addictive to some? Absolutely. It just like literally any substance can be, right? But to others, it can be also the sort of case where like in my own personal experience, I've shown porn to partners before, and we've had, more interesting experiences based on that kind of stuff. It can also make your sex life more interesting. And I find, and let's be real here, a lot of the conservatives that are against it, they don't necessarily tend to have much of a sex life at all. I mean, that's correlated with reactionary conservatism. Not all conservatives, but social conservatism, absolutely. So thank you.
Okay, now it's an open forum. You can engage in dialogue.
Yes,
Yeah,
hello.
Sparky, real quick, can you please clarify what you mean by reformed porn actors?
Do we have to do that?
It's good. It's gonna
There are
matter.
several anecdotal moments where you see former porn actors come out and actually talk about what is going on in the industry. They refer to themselves as reformed porn actors. I'm just going with what they call themselves. So their definition is, hey, we used to be in porn and now we're not.
What's the reformed though?
They're Christian now. Who gives a fuck? All
No,
right,
the reason why that matters, right, is that we have to understand that porn actors are still workers. They're still workers. So this idea that they're reformed is just a really negative connotation. And again, like, I don't think you're trying to dog whistle there, but I don't understand what you mean by reformed.
What if he was?
Dog whistle, dude?
Wait, pause. Connor, right? You're white enough, okay? You don't need to also be a white knight on top of it, okay? Okay?
Listen,
I understand.
I'm trying to defend the honor of my beloved, pornographic lover, Aircraft Sparky.
Right. I think Aircraft can speak for himself, or his devil puppet can speak on behalf of him. Who knows?
Lucy is his name. Hi,
Lucy.
But no. Look, it's very simple. There are people who have left the porn industry who have basically become saved, born again, and they consider themselves to be reformed porn actresses and actors. And look, they talk about what has gone on in the industry. Like I said, look,
what do you mean by born again?
Who gives a fuck?
My God, do you not know?
I don't understand your language. I just don't understand your language here.
You don't.
When you're Christian, when you decide to convert over
so
to
this is. So
Christianity,
are you trying to say this is the religious right
Christ into your heart, you become what is called born again.
Okay, so you're saying
oh my
that.
God,
So
that is
just
like
so
the common definition.
okay,
man.
just so that I'm understanding this, you're trying to say that individuals go into the industry and then they expose the potential problems within the industry. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's pretty much what I said.
Okay, can you describe a situation of somebody who is sort of individual who's speaking out towards the atrocities from the porn industry?
Mia Khalifa, who gives a fuck? Come on.
I mean, she actually has. She's talking about how
Yeah, Mia Khalifa has.
There's been several.
Like, such as.
My God, I don't memorize porn, people.
Well, can you at least tell the situations that happened there?
Dude, Joe Lewis, you can fucking Google the goddamn situations. Are you
But
fucking kidding
I'm
me
not
right
gonna
now?
let a dumb fuck just say dumb shit. Like,
Oh,
there's
okay,
many
so, all right,
examples
so
of
I'll
people
jump in.
saying
Okay,
things,
so I'll
and
jump
then when
in
I
right
ask,
now.
like, what are you
Okay, so
talking
I'll jump
about?
in
They
right now.
can't
So I'll jump
quantify
in.
it.
So I'll jump in right now. Okay, so basically, we've had plenty of pornographic actors and actresses even go on to sex-positive
All right,
fucking
that's
feminist
fucking
shows.
TOS. That's fucking TOS.
okay.
What the fuck is that? Like, come on.
Okay.
What the fuck did I say?
Okay. So we're here to talk about the porn industry, not watch puppets master. So let's
That's pretty much.
You know what?
was
I think we're gonna pull off of this, and I'm just gonna throw it to Demon Mama because Connor? Why are you looking so shocked? I just don't want to engage on that anymore.
Engage on what? The abuses in the porn industry that Joe Lewis just asked about?
I wanted to move off of. I think you can all benefit from a short rest. Okay, Demon Mama.
I don't want to rest.
Thank you for the pullout.
I want to pull out.
Look, I think it's important for us to distinguish between issues within the porn industry and issues with porn itself. The porn industry, like many of these other industries that we've talked about today, is very, very toxic. There are all kinds of very horrible structures that exist. And there are, of course, some outlets and production houses and independent people who are doing really great stuff. I hope that we can all agree that there's a difference between the porn industry having issues and porn itself being problematic. If you were to ask me whether I would defend porn in its current state, I would say no. But if you were to ask me to defend pornography, I would literally go to war over protecting people's rights to have access to porn. I think that people have the right to enjoy sexual art. I don't think you can tell people not to enjoy that, and you can't tell people not to make it. And if you do, I'll do it anyway. But the problem that I'm having here is that it seems like there are issues with, it feels like there's a conflation going on between issues with the porn industry, issues with individual members or groups within the porn industry, and porn itself. And it sounds like Aircraft Sparky is kind of casting moral aspersions on the performers who make porn, whereas Joe is sort of trying to get to the bottom of that. Now, I don't know if we're going to continue with that particular line of thought. I'm more than happy to discuss issues within the porn industry. I brought up the tube sites issue. I've brought up the revenge. I've talked about revenge porn issues. I've talked about compensation issues. Sex workers and performers are super, super undercompensated for the stuff that they do, and they have to do a lot of stuff at great personal risk. And I would also be totally open to discuss issues like how do we secure these sites and make sure that they're accessed healthily. And I'm also willing to discuss what sort of things should be allowed to be depicted in porn. But I feel like I don't know which one of those things people want to talk about. And it feels like right now we're mostly fixating on whether some people on the panel actually believe that porn itself is a moral wrong. So can I ask that question of people on the panel? Is it a moral wrong that you're having an issue with?
Okay, so there's people raising your hands. I can write your hand down, but it's also like an open form, like you can respond. But I guess since that's not happening, I'll throw it to Connor. And Aircraft, if the puppet is raising his hand, you will have to respond using the puppet. I just want you to know that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, Connor, then Kevin.
Okay, all right. Moral? Is it moral or immoral? Okay, I just want to hit Katarana with this real quick. Okay, for every positive study that you have, there are negative studies. Literally, just Googling top 5 results were literally from impartial sources that were basically saying that for every positive study, there's a negative study. We can't make sense of the data. There's too much noise. Okay. So I don't want people just out here saying that porn is universally good. It's just like marijuana. It'll cure your cancer. It'll fucking make you Superman. You can fly after you use CBD. No, that's not the case. Okay.
But the difference is that I'm not scientifically illiterate. So when I'm reading the studies, I'm not just pinpointing for things that make my
Okay, then you and I can have a really deeply interesting scientific based study about porn and the negative studies versus the positive studies and why jerking off until you're fucking blind is actually awesome. Okay, so
I'll do it. Let's do it
all
right
right, so basically, Joe Lewis, the reason why I interrupted multiple times and I was kind of being a dick about it is because yes, I understand this is Twitch.tv. And I understand that you guys are not used to, like, I don't know, conservatives or sex negative people being in these spaces, but they fucking exist.
Yeah, I was
Literally,
a sex
you
negative
share like
person,
30.
Connor. I was
Yeah,
a
So
sex
you
negative
share
person
40.
for
So
25
do we have
years.
to walk down? Okay, so do we have to walk down like a fucking?
I walk down this
50-point
rhetoric
logical
because
fucking
here's
rhetoric?
what happens, right? So
Mhm.
righties will do this thing where they say, yeah, we should totally give protections to porn workers and sex workers. It's a totally just thing to do. But but we also have to talk about these reformed sex workers who are in these spaces who are talking about the dangers within the industry. Then I ask, as somebody who is in these spaces and hear this fucking rhetoric in my own family, what do you mean by reformed sex workers? And it's always this sort of connection to God and that God is a justifiable thing. And they use that as a backdoor to justify the instruction of religion and Christianity in public schools. And they use that as an argument as the way, instead of doing sex education, you need more education about religion in schools. That's why I pushed back so hard, because that's a rhetoric that I have to fight for my family every day.
Okay, I would
Like-
rather you just walk me down that shit and then instead of try to lead fucking Sparky down it. And I will actually answer Demon Mama's question by responding to what you just said. Okay? So
Sure.
Demon Mama asked us, do we think that pornography is immoral or morally neutral or something like that? So the immorality that immorality, by the way, is just good or bad. Okay, it's literally the study of good or bad. Okay, everybody has different definitions for what's good and bad. Morality, blah blah blah. It's very boring. It's very philosophical. Okay, I think the strongest arguments that your conservative family, without even really making it, really making these arguments, is that sex is one of the most powerful things that we have as human beings. Killing and sex are the only two things that we're obsessed with, and probably the reason why sex feels so fucking good and the reason why it's such a cornerstone of human life is because it's procreative. Now, can you have sex without procreation? Of course.
Yes.
Can you just have fun, sexy times and all that kind of shit? Sure. But a hyper focus on only pleasure and a hyper focus on only the exploration of non-procreative sex is basically hedonism. And there's a whole bunch of potential negative side effects to a hedonistic lifestyle that needs to be explored and explained. And there's a lot of caveats that the moral foundations of our society that are rooted in Christianity and, you know, the Judeo-Christian fucking gobbledygook or whatever, that basically talks about how to structure a family, how to structure a society, how to have children, how those children should be productive in the future, and basically how to keep society going in a forward thing. So the fear from a religious-based perspective is that if everybody starts being fucking coomers, if everybody tries to be fucking Hasanabe, then society is going to collapse within a generation. So that's the fear. So I'll leave it there for you to
another fear.
Implying that porn only exists for solo consumption, by the way, too, which is also crazy. But
I mean, you could be like my brother. You
Wait. Wait, Kevin was next. I want to hear Kevin speak.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Dylan. I'll say this. We're having a conversation right now, you know, as Demon Mama asked, and it's a good question, you know, who here thinks that pornography is immoral? That's a great question to ask. But, you know, I think that this should really be flipped. As I, will talk about, you know, when we're talking about immorality, there are a few studies that have been done that looked at the negative ramifications of pornography, and they were self-reporting, and they found that those that felt that porn was something to be ashamed of, but consumed it, felt worse. They had lower self-esteem. They had negative. You could say they had negative repercussions or negative mental health as a result of porn consumption. But a huge problem there is that, well, they were brought up in a culture where they were supposed to feel shame over their very own sexuality. And that, of course, was inculcated from religion. And I'll say this, I'm not going to get into a big theological thing or anything. We shouldn't be asking, is porn harmful and is porn immoral? We should rather be asking, is religion harmful and is religion immoral? And I would argue yes to both of them. So thank you.
You and I are going to do that a different day.
GTFO.
Well, another
or GTFO.
Another argument that one of my relatives has is that porn is immoral because it advocates for the mixing of bloodlines. That's his
What?
argument. That's his argument.
That's
He said that in
different.
Thanksgiving. And that why he doesn't watch porn, and he doesn't want his kids to watch porn.
Hey,
Wait,
that's
racial
why
shit?
that's why
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
That was
literally
his take.
like, well,
That's
like
scalding hot.
Catarana's
Another-
like, now you see.
another take that exists in my family is that porn is illogical because it advocates for promiscuosity. So you ought to not watch porn because you ought not to participate in that activity because it's a disgrace against God. Furthermore, if you
Sorry.
go forth in that path, you are not only disgracing your family, you're also disgracing Jesus Christ, and then it goes down these religiosity passes. So I have the eugenicist bloodline route in my family. I have the sanctity of family in my family, and I also have the all the in between. So like the reason why I push back on language so hard is because I've heard all of it. And like you can put a puppet to hide in your dumbass take, but it concerns me when these like right-wing social justice warriors say something is like wrong, well, this is wrong, we shouldn't do this, or even I should support this. But when you get into the nitty-gritty of going like
said anything was wrong.
okay, that's cool. That's cool, man. Like you can
Oh man.
you're a grown ass man with a puppet.
Oh
like
man.
my dude, you got to
Wait,
fucking reevaluate
why are we
your life.
shaving? Why are we shaving
So-
right now?
Wait, Joe. I'm very interested in hearing the puppet. No, bring the fucking puppet back. I didn't say the
No,
puppet.
no,
could leave.
no. Joe Lewis is
But
shaved
I'm making a federal now executive order.
Yeah,
the puppet,
fuck the military,
puppet
my dude.
is now a member
So-
of the panel, and I want to hear what the puppet has to say. It was speaking up. I want to hear it. It has not had a lot of time to talk. It's going by panel rules. What's the puppet have to say?
It's very simple. No one's claimed that porn was immoral. In fact, Sparky actually defended porn and just said there needed to be a paywall where children couldn't watch it. Of course, Joe Lewis is like, oh, well, religion is the problem. No, that is not the problem. What the problem is immoral individuals trying to push sexuality on young children.
And porn doesn't actually target children. But there are people who will sit there and try to go, yes, we need children to watch porn. Hell, we had a kind of a prominent little journalist actually talking about that yesterday. It is the normalization. This is the disgusting thing. Look, when it comes down to is porn moral or immoral, that's a decision that needs to be, figured out within the family. The family determines what they consider to be moral and immoral. Like I have no problem with like general sex education in the classroom, but I don't think that any type of morality should be taught in the classroom whatsoever. That is actually for the family to figure out. And I know, Joe, you're gonna probably say it's racist because not everyone has, parents or something or
Jesus Christ. What the fuck was that?
Well, because when I mentioned parental responsibilities on a Sunday panel,
what the fuck was that? No, talk to me in the now. What the fuck was that?
So
what the fuck was that? What
You're
are you talking about?
Talking about how you simp out for these porn stars, and I'm like, cool.
I support sex
You support
workers,
them.
yes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care about that.
Then why'd you fucking racialize it so hard? For
How
no
did I
fucking
racialize
reason.
Already fucking racializing shit.
Why is everything race with you? Are you that
Jesus
simple-minded?
Christ,
Okay.
my dude. Just shut the fuck up.
Okay, so
Don't ever address me again on this panel. Fuck you, asshole.
Okay. So first, I want to say that puppet's gonna challenge for the championship. I'm a big fan of the puppet. And I'm going to raise your hand if you want to talk, because a lot of people.
I mean,
haven't
I'll
talked in a while.
respond to that very generally, right? Like,
Okay,
so.
well, I just asked for people
Sure.
to raise hands, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say it was directed at you, so you're gonna go, but I want to figure out the order after. So I'm gonna go Cat, Demon Mama. Maddie hasn't said anything like at all, so then Maddie I think makes sense. I'm leaving the boys out. This is a girls' club. Agent hasn't said anything in a while. Kevin Connor.
Okay, so I just I never understand why there's this like this thing that like right wingers like to do when we're like, what about the But the kids, like the question itself doesn't really inherently like relate to kids at all. Like since kids weren't included, we can usually just assume that they're not. So we don't even need to talk about like age gating or like at what age can people like start looking at porn, because like if that was what Dylan really like wanted to go towards, it would have said at what age can kids see porn or something. But like what we're talking about is in its like in an objective sense, is it moral or is it bad or whatever? And like if most of us agree that it's not bad, then like I don't really see what we're having much of like a problem on here, because like at the end of the day, like you can have whatever like religious like standpoint that you want on it, but you also have to admit that we live in a country where not everybody is necessarily of your religion or religious at all. And as long as most of us don't have any type of moral qualms with it in a religious sense, then like who cares like what I use to beat my meat, as long as I'm beating it, right? Because like at the end of the day, like it is literally a human function to go ahead and cum, and not everybody is married, and not everybody has really good imaginations. Once again, part of the reason why some of us use porn is because we don't have good imaginations. Some of us don't have like the like typical human capacity or to even think about some of these things, and thus why we had to look at it in the first place. And some of it, us use it for coming. Like there's different utilities for why people are using it. And if people want to fucking beat their meat to somebody getting dicked down by 5 people, I don't give a fuck. Like who cares? Like, are they getting paid? Or is it consensual? Who gives a shit? Like, don't look at it if you have such a problem with it.
Demon, Mama.
Okay. Yeah. I think coming is really good. I think people should probably do it more. They'll probably be happier. I feel like the like anti-coomer stuff is often like, and I don't believe that Connor was trying to do this, by the way, but I do think that the anti-coomer stuff is usually just another euphemism to say degenerate or deviant or other things like that. I don't know. I find this topic a little bit confusing. I'm not entirely sure what we're batting at, but like porn is art. There's you don't have to justify to every degree why you enjoy fucking coming. People enjoy that shit, and they should, and we should let each other make stuff and share it. If people have a problem with porn where they get addicted to it, yeah, we should provide solutions for them just like anybody else. With regard to the question about like kids on porn sites, I hate to tell you this, but fucking kids are all the fuck over the internet. And it needs to be parents. They can't really push this off onto the government. You have the easiest way to prevent kids from getting into porn stuff, and you also have the most power to actually just be like, hey, kids, this is a thing that exists. Be careful, be healthy, don't get too far into it, don't lose yourself in it. Bam. And then of course, like I said, porn is art. And if you don't believe me on that, if you don't believe me that porn is art, that like not just that the performance itself is art, do me a favor, go read The Invitation by Incase and come back and let me know. I'm telling you, that shit'll change your life forever. So yeah, enjoy it, and people should come more. Porn is great. The industry has huge issues, just like most industries under capitalism. And people who hyper moralize around porn are usually doing so based on this like strange a great example of this is somebody like John Doyle, who is a I don't even think it's fair to call him a crypto fascist. He's just a fascist. And he regularly implies, he did a whole like 3-hour video documentary about porn being bad, and he regularly implies that society is being shaped by someone through porn. And if you know anything about anti-Semitic tropes, something that Nazis often do is they say that Jewish people are producing porn to encourage race mixing, which is something that Joe actually talked on. That is a common anti-Semitic trope. And you see this being rehashed by all kinds of conservatives who you wouldn't necessarily consider Nazis, but who nonetheless adopt the same rhetoric and the same structure of argument. So I think we should be very critical of that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
One moment. Before I go back down the list, I just want to take a moment to say, hey, everybody in chat, putting together these roundtables is pretty difficult. Obviously, getting 3 last-second replacements was not easy, and it takes time to put the show together. And we are pretty behind for this month when it comes to subs and donos, and I appreciate any support you guys could throw towards the Dylan Burns TV brand. For next week's content, expect that we're most likely going to be doing a review of Tariq Nasheed's new film, Buck Breaking, with YMS. Also, I believe it's Adams Ruins Everything. He's the movie reviewer dude. We should be doing a review with him, which would be pretty dope. We'll also be watching some Jerry Springer episodes with Loner Box and doing a lot of other fun content. We might also be interviewing some local political activists, somebody on the local Prince George's County School Board, and somebody running for Annapolis Ward 3. I would appreciate any support you could throw towards the channel as we continue to develop our content. We will also be having next week, Hippy Dippy. One of the topics would be, should we preserve the nuclear family? So be sure to tune in for next week as we have some interesting topics come our way. Now, I wanted to go back to the list, and we're going to start with Maddie.
Yeah, I think so. This is a bit of a callback to what Joe Lewis was talking about earlier, how the sort of problematic nature of using a word like reform, even if that is something that some former porn actresses refer to themselves with. Like, the issue is that, and this kind of also goes back to, I think it like the.
Okay, one moment. I'm in trouble. I said, Adam Ruins Everything. That's the wrong Adam. I meant Your Movie Sucks. That Adam. That's the wrong Adam.
Okay.
That's gonna get me in some trouble. But he deserves it because he cut his ponytail. So continue, Maddie.
We can just edit that part out when you post this to
We'll
YouTube,
edit
and
it.
it'll
Geek,
be
edit
fine.
this. You didn't edit it, did you?
Yeah.
Damn you.
But yeah, so I want to sort of talk about why language matters. And we talked a little bit about this when referring to Simone Biles, and while saying something like choked is problematic, similarly, referring to former porn actresses as reformed, or saying that she's a reformed whatever, that's problematic because it furthers the stigmatization of sex workers and seeing it as like being in the porn industry must be inherently bad if people who have since departed that industry can be referred to as reformed. That is problematic, and it furthers that notion. So
that's the way they identify those, shouldn't that be?
Fixate. I'm not done. I believe it's so weird. Thought I wasn't done, but this is why, like, even if they refer to themselves as that, I'm not going to tell them to refer themselves differently. But when we are discussing this in a forum like we are right now, be mindful of how you word these things because that matters. You have that kind of influence. And again, I think one of the best ways that we can ensure that sex workers are protected, that their rights aren't being violated, and that we can also make sure that they are doing whatever work they're doing willingly and of their own volition is by pushing for unionization. So that's how I feel. And no more puppets, please.
I love the puppets. I unironically love the puppets.
I'm gonna see it in my
The most leverage Aircraft Sparky has in any negotiation with me is just saying, I will bring the puppet. We're going to throw it to Agent now.
Yeah, so a few things is Sparky. One of them, imagine him singing Gold Digger in the puppet voice. 2, I really think he was going somewhere good before he said, reformed. I think he was talking about critiques of the porn industry and what they do to the girls, which, it's some pretty bad shit. Like, I'm in favor unionizing sex workers, especially in the porn industry. Demon Mama said they were as well, and I'm sure others on the panel is extremely in favor of that. We want to talk about exploitation of like 18-year-olds specifically, or extremely young women. That would be also a great topic. I don't think we need to die on this hill specifically, but I feel like there's a lot more agreement that we can branch onto like actual talk instead of just trying to like get hung up on a single word here.
Yeah, as an example, right? There's a handful of porn stars that found Christ, but they wouldn't self-describe themselves as reformed. That's language that people within articles use to talk about these individuals. There is a problem, however, with this sort of dump culture that exists within the industry, where you'll have an individual who goes into the industry. They'll maybe do like the span of an actor is or actress, I should say, to be more specific, is around 3 to 4 months. And in that span, they have very little say of what type of content they're able to do for themselves because they're strapped to these very restrictive contracts. This is something that happened to Lisa Ann. This is something that happened to Mia Khalifa. This is something that happened to a vast variety of porn stars in the 2000s and even and now still happening. And then we saw a reaction to that, right? Where porn stars just took their content and did it themselves, right? So like Pinky was one of the first to do that, where she's like, fuck this, I'm going to just monetize my own shit because no one's going to like AVN isn't going to hire me. Vivid isn't going to hire me. Someone's going to do my own content. And then that created a stream of individuals who were doing this for themselves. The problem is they're just taking this and shifting it somewhere else. So instead of having AVN and Vivid dictating what you do in terms of content, you just have OnlyFans doing. So then it's like, okay, there's like, and if we understand that OnlyFans is another sort of pseudo monopoly and that they're not really making as much money and there's not really any protections that exist within OnlyFans, there's problems within that. And that's one of my many concerns when it comes to protections for porn actors broadly. I do think, however, there's something to say about industry, like companies having individuals participate in openly hateful, objectifying content. As an example, there are plenty Black actresses who argue that certain industries made them like have sex with people in Confederate gear and stuff like that and don the Confederate flag. And that was just something that were allowed. Mia Khalifa being in hijab. And that's just being the thing. And that's not her choice. That's the company's choice of making her do that. And that's something that I don't think it's okay. I don't think companies should have the ability to tell these actors, like, you must do this thing that might potentially cause you harm internationally, or even just cause you personal harm. And that's just something that they just continually do. So when I think of actresses and actors that outcry on these type of things, that's what I think about. I don't think about porn actors and actresses going to Christ. I'm thinking about the ones that don't have protections and get abused by the system and shat out every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge labor problem that can be discussed in the porn industry. It's especially bad because of the level of coercion and the fact that a lot of people turn to porn because it sells, you know? So you need the money, you have the work, and people can put you in a position. This is something that we have, again, this is an issue that's shared across multiple industries, but it is particularly bad in porn. And I think it's something that we should take seriously. Porn is another one of those industries that suffers from the same thing that I brought up earlier about video games, and also something that we brought up about film. Somebody brought up in the last conversation about film, which is that our society kind of treats it as something frivolous, like, oh, movies are fun. That means the industry that makes the movies, you know, should be considered like fun or frivolous, but it's not. And these are how these things are made is sometimes dangerous and needs to have protections. I think that if we took things like that more seriously, if we saw people who work in these industries who produce this stuff with a little more respect, and we took, you know, as a society, we can do it as individuals. Again, I always advocate for people to support porn, you know, porn performers and sex workers directly. Like, that's an awesome way, you know, to do things. That's super great. If you can go to their Patreon, if you can go whatever, is super awesome. But like, as a society, if we encourage people being more caring about like the source of the thing that they're enjoying to some degree, I think that we'll have more scrutiny on the labor conditions. We'll perhaps see the availability of porn actor guilds or something along those lines, or unions, or you know, co-op porn production structures that allow individuals to have more input in these things. But as it is right now, I mean, most of porn is controlled by one company, if I remember. Like, most of the tube sites, the biggest company in porn is like MindGeek or something. Mm-hmm. And the way that they do it is they wait for you know, they wait for people to upload stolen stuff to their site, and then, you know, hey, if nobody reports it, it just stays up there, making them money. So people might actually put a lot of money and put themselves on the line to make a piece of art that's really wonderful, you know, or whatever, or something that's just kind of tacky and cheap, but it doesn't matter. They're getting you know, exploited. I think we need to address exploitation on a level that's not just like there's this. I'm sorry to be if I'm a little rambly on this, but it's something that frustrates me, which is that and Joe has touched on this a little bit, which is that there's this like bait and switch that's done where you say, hey, the porn industry is super exploitative, and then like all of these religious righties who want you to never have sex and lock your dick in a chastity cage for the rest of your life will sort of pop out of the woodwork and go, yeah, porn is exploitative. And you go, no, wait, the porn industry is exploitative. Porn itself is neither necessarily exploitative or non-exploitative. It's a type of thing that you can make. And I think that we need to be careful about what we're talking about. The labor conditions in the porn industry and in sex work are ridiculously exploitative, but that requires us tackling exploitation as a concept, not like, you know, whether God wants you to jerk your dick or not. And I do think that, again, I think it's something we need to, as a society and as, you know, advocates here, talk about that and recognize that, like, hey, porn may not be exploitative, but the industry can be. The industry can be exploitative, but porn itself might not be.
Would you say that the entire, or for the most part, your entertainment industries would be considered exploitative or exploitive?
Yeah, disgustingly so. Absolutely. I have, you know, I went to school for film. I ended up working in streaming, and you know, and I love video games. Yeah, those industries are very, very exploitative. And they get away with yeah, it's super common, but they get it. But it can have really bad, have like atrocious outcomes, and the exploitation is particularly bad in entertainment industries. Once again, because there's this idea that like art or entertainment is not essential to our society, even though it is. Even though we all surround ourselves with media at all hours of every day, whether we're listening to stuff on our headphones or on the radio on the bus or looking at pictures outside or paintings or whatever. We're constantly consuming. Art is hugely important for the maintenance of the human psyche. And yet we still treat it with this thing like, oh, it's a dream job to go get to work at a company like Blizzard, or oh, it's a dream job to get to be the social media manager for Pornhub. Okay, maybe, but it's still really exploitative. And you can't let companies get away with this idea that like, oh, well, this is an entertainment industry, you know? Like, you can't let them get away with that as an excuse to further exploit people and to not give people the rights that they deserve as workers.
So do you believe that it is the nature of the entertainment industry itself that is exploitive, or do you think that it is just a few bad actors?
Oh, no, I think it's the nature of capitalism. If we want to go that far where exploitation comes from, we can break this right open into the capitalism discussion. The way that we structure labor in our society as a whole pervades every industry, but it becomes readily apparent in entertainment industries, specifically because there is like a two-facedness. On one hand, we recognize that entertainment and games are the products themselves, perhaps a little bit frivolous, maybe a tiny bit, you know. A DVD of like Paw Patrol seems kind of unimportant in comparison to somebody's life-saving medication, obviously. But the people who make that shit and the people who do consume that shit are people. They're humans. And we have to think about that and recognize that. And I think that without analyzing labor, without analyzing exploitation as a whole, it's very hard for us to confront this. I think that what some people like to do is, instead of recognizing that we have some seriously fucked up structures as to how we determine who gets what when something is made, that instead people will pivot to things like, oh, well, no, it's the porn that's the problem. Let's get rid of the porn. Let's clamp down on the porn. Well, it's like, no, actually, the problem is that there's a huge population in the United States that needs money to survive, and everybody's got to do different things. And some people end up doing entertainment things, but they still need to pay their food. So at the end of the day, whether they're working in entertainment, making a frivolous product, or whether they're working in a factory manufacturing a needed product, that person still has needs of their own. That person is still being forced into different conditions by their boss who pays their bills. So yeah, I don't think it's a few bad actors. I think this is something we need to think about on a larger scale, because it does, again, it just becomes very apparent in entertainment, because we have a double standard with how we handle the importance of entertainment and how we treat workers who create our entertainment.
Okay, so wait. We are gonna have to be wrapping up soon, so I want to make sure that those who are on the list get to talk. And that's gonna be Kevin and Connor. And Kat, you weren't on the. Were you on the list? Let me check. Oh, you should have been on the list. I'll put you on the
I have
list.
small hands.
Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So I just wanted to address a couple points. First one, directed at CounterPoints. He had referred to hedonism. I'll say this: better to be a hedon, whatever that means, than a tradcon. Obviously, I think that the absolute mental health implications, negative mental health implications of tradcon culture, the attempts to bring us in a retrograde direction, to inculcate children into basically cultures of shame over things that they can't even control, shame over things that are good, especially the shame over sexuality that you see in religion, especially. All this is a negative, and that in and of itself definitely contributes to some of the negativity, as I mentioned, with respect to consumption of pornography. Is that if you live in a shame culture and you feel ashamed of the consumption, well, it makes sense that you might have some negative health ramifications. But we know, and there are studies that have been done on this that show that across the United States, for example, the conservative states, they tend to, have the most viewed pornography category be that which is, historically speaking, and sometimes in the current era, the most stigmatized. So you can look at some of the southern states where, what's one of the categories that's really popular? One of the categories that's really popular is interracial sex. Well, but part of the problem there is that, historically speaking, people were stigmatized against that. And so if somebody grew up with racist parents, for example, they might feel bad, but they might be interested in that as well. But now they're going to feel bad over it because they've got a bunch of racists in their life that might shame them if they were to find out, or at least they feel that shame even if they don't tell anybody. You have incest, I think, is the number big one in Mississippi. Now, I'm not saying legitimize incest, but it does go to show you that we want to talk about hedonism. We want to talk about, the libs and the progressives or whatever, or like degenerate and all that kind of stuff. Look at the conservative states. Look at what goes on in a lot of conservative states where, you got very tradcon cultures that lead to things like, incest being the most searched category, for example. And that, of course, would be counterproductive. You could talk about, as it related to the misogyny and the exploitation in porn, and I'm not talking about the industry here, but and I'll just say, just to finish that other part up, yeah, you're better off to be a hedon than a reactionary, absolutely. But as far as the critics of porn, a lot of the critics of porn, or a lot of the advocates of banning pornography, they'll talk about porn as being misogynist, and some of the examples that they will point to might well be clear-cut cases of misogyny. Look at what those people's stances on abortion is. Look at what those people's stances is, just in more broad terms, of course. Ask them about what their view of gay marriages, etc. Look at how they feel, about women in the workplace, that kind of thing, and then see if their criticism of porn is coming from a place of actual concern, or if they're just concern trolling disingenuous hacks. So anyway, that's what I got to say there. So thanks.
Okay, next is going to be Connor, and then Kat. Then a special message from Dylan Birds TV.
I can do mine as a part of closing.
Okay, Kat.
Yeah, I just wanted to push back really quickly on something that Agent 10 said like a while ago about like how this industry is like exploiting a lot of 18-year-old girls. Like, what? Like, I understand. I guess there's like this weird cultural thing where we're always like, oh no, like the woman, like 18-year-old guys are being exploited too. And if you think it's an age thing, then young people are being exploited. And if you think it's a woman thing, then don't. Like,
I would say there's a very large push within like porn specifically for 18-year-old girls, and I use that as a way to like, yeah, we should probably unionize. So like, I don't know why that. I don't know where that came from.
There's also 18-year-old men that are also like involved in sex work.
I see the same 6 guys in all the porn that I watch.
Then
I'm pretty sure there's like.
Here, what can I say?
I
just
see.
started watching
Well,
enough
I will
female
say
porn,
that
I
I
don't
see
know what to tell you.
a diversity of men in mine.
Yeah.
I do, but I would say it's kind of obvious to say there's a
Hey, we
push
can. I mean, do we want to
into,
talk? Do we want to talk about the yikes takes that porn actors and actresses have?
Well,
Some that have,
well, let's not
some that
spiral
have
out because
no-no
we have to
lists
go
where
into
they.
the end. We have to
Mhm.
wrap it up. We're already 15 minutes over. So, Kat, did you finish your take, or do you want to continue?
I mean, I just think it's exploitative no matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter if you have a peen or a vagine. If you're 18 years old, sometimes you're just making decisions that are like, not entirely thought out. And sometimes you're not thinking about the consequences. And it doesn't really matter whether or not you have tits. It can be exploitative no matter what. And I don't really.
No, if we broke down the demography of the industry, I guarantee you it'd be like 20 to 1 female to male. Almost guaranteed.
It's definitely
Sorry.
not 1-to-1.
Yeah.
That's
Also, we
nice.
agree on
Doesn't
this.
stop the
We
men
agree
from
on this.
being
I don't know why
exploited.
you're trying to make it like a pissing competition. It's it's equal. It's got to be a 50-50 ratio. It's like, no,
I'll
it's kinda
piss
obvious
until the
here.
day I die.
All right.
Hopefully not on video.
Okay, so now we're going to wrap up the show, but quickly, I just wanted to give a message to everybody at home. So recently, I had a phone call with my father, who was basically telling me about certain skepticisms he had about vaccinations and vaccines, and about whether people should get vaccines. The thing is, he has lung cancer. He is in the highest risk group possible when it comes to COVID and the effects it can have on people. If he got COVID, he would just die. And for me to hear that from him was very scary, to be quite honest. Thankfully, I was able to talk him away from these positions and explain to him, hey, yes, there are people who catch COVID after getting vaccines, but it drastically reduces outcome. I had that conversation. So I just wanted to say that if you have the chance, please talk to your elder and most vulnerable populations about the importance of getting this vaccination in your family, the people that you love and the people you believe love you. Because you know what? You might get frustrated, but it'll be a lot more frustrating to see them hooked up in a hospital. So I just wanted to give that message at the end of today's stream, even though it wasn't part of the topics. So we're going to wrap up today's stream. I'm going to give everybody an outro, starting with Agent 10. Going over to him.
Well, thanks, Dylan, for having me on the panel. It was fun for the most part, guys. If anyone wants to find me on Twitch, it's Agent 10. It's Agent_10_ video games, politics, dissecting media stuff, movies, music, TV shows, all that fun stuff. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's Agent10_TTV. It's a lot of fun stuff. I make some jokes. I shit post with some memes. I create some memes, even some Dylan stole in the past, so they got to be good. Follow me.
False accusations. I'm throwing over to aircraft.
Alrighty, I'm Aircraft Sparky. You can
Puppet.
find me. The puppet. The puppet has her own outro. I'm Aircraft Sparky. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Aircraft Sparky, twitch.tv/Aircraft Sparky, and of course you can find me on Twitter. The link should be in the description or at the end or whatever. Danabo will take care of all that. It's a Spark of Innova 1. Is the at deal. I do political commentary. I do animation, I do art, and of course, I occasionally do these little discussions. And I guess people get upset with some of the things I say. It's all good. I just want to say, Dylan, I saw that on Twitter about your father, man. I'll put him in my prayers, man. I hope everything works out well for him.
Appreciate it. I'm going to throw it over to CounterPoints.
Yeah, so I just want to give a shout out to Dylan from a financial standpoint. We all love our buddy Prime, who I'm on his show pretty regularly. We also love our buddy Hans, but Dylan does some of the best content on Twitch.tv, one of the best moderators. So I think that if you have the ability to support him, I would appreciate it if you did. Keep the Dylan Burns TV brand alive and happy and healthy. And then what I would say too is I have an under 30-year-old. He's in his late 20s, family member who caught COVID, is now on life support. I also have a brother-in-law who is not getting vaccinated despite having childhood asthma. because of the propaganda that he's consumed. And literally even my conservative family is basically yelling at him like, hey, this is a major risk. Get your shit together, get vaccinated. And unfortunately, he's been brainwashed by YouTube people to the point that he's not going to do it. So fuck that. Take care of your people. Yell at them. Because, like you said, it sucks more to deal with them during serious medical crises rather than having an uncomfortable conversation at dinner. So go ahead and do that. Yep, if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter, CounterPoints, ConorPoints, ConorPoints. You can also go into YouTube, type in CounterPoints, common spelling. We're about to break 8K, very exciting. Basically, I think I'm going to have to take some of y'all on your hedonistic bullshit and your anti-theism one day, but not today. So thank you very much for coming out, having fun. I appreciate all y'all.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Demon Mama.
Everyone, my name is Demon Mama. You can follow me at the link on the screen right here. But I want to end this by saying, you want to know what you can do? You got some money laying around and you want to get your dick hard or your pussy wet or whatever else you want to get pleasurable. Go fucking
give the Dylan Burns
give
TV. Oh, okay. Well,
go give that money to some trans porn stars directly because they would love to have that support. And guess what? You'll be doing two things. One, you'll be supporting someone directly, and two, you'll be taking money out of the pockets of giant, abusive, exploitative porn companies. Support porn directors. Support porn artists directly. You got a weird kink? We all got weird kinks. Pay your fucking artists. Those artists break their backs making that weird shit for you. Fucking pay them. Pay them directly. It's cheaper than you think. Just take the time to do it. I'm serious. You'd make a lot of change in the world. All right. Thanks, everybody. And come on by afterwards. We're going to be doing some Q&A and some other stuff.
Okay, we're going to be throwing it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Joe Lewis. The O's is 0. I currently have a fundraiser going to help just raise some funds towards a trip that I'm doing to Loudoun County, Virginia. I have a bunch of content lined up in terms of that county, which has been the center of the culture war around critical race theory and gender affirmation. So I'm going to go see a anti-CRT session with Dr. James Lindsay to see what that looks like in the real life. So yeah, I'm doing that in a couple weeks. So if that's something you want to look out for, check the channel out. We kind of made Loudoun County this little project. If not, you can just see me argue on Twitter with dumbass tankies and reactionary social justice warrior righties at twitter.com/Joe Lewis. Same thing, the O's ring 0. So glad to be here and hopefully see you guys soon.
Okay. I want to give it over to Katarana.
Oh, I'm Katarina. I do leftist politics, but I also happen to be a physicist, and I also am Dylan Burns' babysitter. So if you like Dylan, you'll probably like me because he doesn't seem to hate me. And also, Dylan, don't forget to make up your bed. Okay, bye.
This is why I'm gay. I'm going to throw it over to Maddie.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maddie Cakes. You can find me on Twitch as Maddie Cakes _. You can also find me on Twitter or Instagram as Mads Maru. That's spelled MADSMARU. I really enjoyed this panel today. Nightmarish puppets aside, and porn is great and a good time, and so is masturbation and sex in general. It's a great time. I'm very pro all that. So, knock yourself out. Have a great time. And yeah, thank you.
Do your best to not actually pass out while engaging in such conduct. I'm going to throw it over to Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So I just want to give a shout out here to Dylan Burns as well. I noticed your channel just passed 30,000 followers on Twitch. That's pretty base. So congrats, Dylan. That's a big accomplishment. So congrats there. Thanks for having me on again. Always great to be here. So basically, as I said in the intro, I run the channel Superpower Broadcasting on YouTube and Twitch. And I do daily premieres over to YouTube, and I do daily live streams to Periscope, Twitch, and YouTube, of course. So make sure you're subscribed so you get daily content. And I mostly talk about foreign policy, international relations, and security issues, but I've been more branching out lately to talk about some economics as well as a lot of social issues. And I'll say this just to kind of close up here. Pornography is based, reaction is cringe, and I'm going to be doing a post show over on Superpower Broadcasting in about half an hour, so you're welcome to tune in for that. And if you'd like to debate me, you can shoot me a DM on Twitter at Kevin Castley, and we'll set up a debate. Thanks everybody for watching, and thanks for having me on again.